Hello. I believe I should be live now. Kiko has decided to join the start of the stream, which is exciting, obviously. You just start a shot though, Keeks. You need to come in shot. There you go. So, hope you're all well. No one has actually arrived yet, of course. So, here's some people now. Are you getting down now, Keeks? Had enough? Yeah, you've had enough, I know. It's hard work, isn't it? It's hard work being you. Hi, Nana. Elle, nice to see you. So, I'm doing this live stream this evening because some people asked me to do one around the Netflix one. I'm not going to have time to do that. I thought this would be the last chance I'll have to do one for a little while. I've got lots of stuff planned around Netflix, so I won't probably have time to do another live stream for a little while. So I thought this evening would be a good opportunity. I'm not going to do a video on the 4th of February because Netflix is coming out that day and it just seems senseless. So my next video was going to be on the 5th after posting today's interview with Dr. Donnelly, which people seem to have enjoyed. And I'll just say hello to a few people. Hi to Truth Will Out. Hi to Layla. Hi to Unicorn. Hi to Paul Conran. Hi to Tony. Hi to Bernie. Hi to Claire. Hi to Shell. Hi to Maria. Hi to Katie. Hi to Topsy Turvy. Hi to Key to Confidence. Hi to Zoe. Hi to Haley. Delight to catch you live. You are fantastic. Thank you. Hi to Julie. Hi to Richard. Hi to House of Dragon. Hi to someone who just has a username. So first comment, I'll just respond to this comment, then I'll talk a little bit more. But someone has said it will be amazing to see what the American audience makes of the Letby case. Yes. So I do believe it's going to be a net positive for us. I think I know the police, and we'll have to see what is in there, unless there was some major new revelations. And if there were major new revelations, why wouldn't they have released them before now and put them in the court case? I just don't think there is. I think they were absolutely planning a few years ago, whenever they'd begun to discuss this, maybe 2 years ago. We're going to have a lap of honor. Everyone's going to say how great we are. Look, we've nailed the child killer. Aren't we brilliant? Everyone's going to pat us on the back. And unfortunately, it hasn't turned out that way for them, or fortunately, as we would see it. So I really don't think the Netflix will be a net positive for the police. I think they don't have anything new to give. I think that in the trailer there's an image of the shift chart, and they're saying, "Oh, it's always Lucy. Lucy was there," and that's going to be a disaster for them if they put that in there. So they don't have any new evidence. They're going to put this footage of Lucy being arrested. That's already backfired. I mean, I saw a clip on Sky News with Anne Diamond, who was very famous when I was younger, and she was saying she was arrested in her pajamas. Other people have pointed this out as well. And this is people that don't even know the case that well. So I don't think the footage is going to work for them. Obviously, there must be something in there. There must be bits and pieces in there. But it's just up to us to respond strongly to it. All I think it's going to do is shine a light on this case, bring it to a wider audience, and then it's our job to show them that it's a very, very unsafe conviction indeed. I'm not worried about this documentary. I think it's going to be positive for Lucy's prospects. I think if you look at the Sun poll this week, where there was over 75% people said there should be a retrial, that's a good indicator of public mood. It's obvious the Sun they've decided we've come down on the side of this is a miscarriage of justice, which is massive, of course. So that's a really big deal, and I think everything's moving in the right direction. And I don't think this, what will probably be quite weak documentary, is going to make a huge amount of difference. In answer to the question from Ajdo, which do you think the Netflix doc will be pro guilt or pro innocence? Yeah, so they say, I feel they were going for guilty and may have pivoted to innocence the more they dug into the case. So I think it'll be balanced. I think there'll be, we know there's Mark's in there. We know Professor Sheely's in there. I think there will be a significant amount of pro-innocence material, and they'll try and make it balanced. One of the things that people may not have considered is that I can't remember if I've remarked on this in a previous video, but I was talking to someone about it the other day. Netflix are very, very much more powerful than Cheshire Police. Like in this relationship, Cheshire Police are the monkey and Netflix is the organ grinder. So although Cheshire Police will have tried to negotiate terms with them, at the end of the day, Netflix are not going to be pushed around by Cheshire Police. So they will do whatever they want to do, and they will do whatever suits Netflix. The only thing Netflix want is as many people to watch as possible and to generate as much interest and as much revenue from it as they can. That's all they want to do. So if the police don't give them that, if the police don't give them anything, the biggest thing the police have got is what features prominently in the trailer, which is the footage, which I think has already backfired and will backfire more. Then all of a sudden there's this new angle that's come up, and obviously they've got to cover that. The police thought this was going to be entirely pro innocence. I do genuinely think the police just never occurred they'd done anything wrong. I think they did the best they could, and they genuinely thought they'd done a good job. Stupid people often. Everyone's heard of the Dunning-Kruger syndrome. People that aren't very bright often think they've done great things, and then turns out what they've done is rubbish. I don't think the police thought for 1 second that they were going to end up in this situation. I think they thought we've done a great investigation. I mean, they said in the Operation Hummingbird film that we're proud of the work we did. I'm sure that's true. I'm absolutely sure they all tried their hardest. They thought they were going to be the heroes for the rest of their lives, and it never occurred to them that they'd done anything wrong and they'd made any mistakes. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the Netflix, but I don't think it's going to be a massive problem. There could be stuff in there, but I'll be responding to it the day after it's broadcast on the 5th of February. So I'll be watching it on the 4th. And actually, it's really good that it comes out at 8 o'clock in the morning because it gives me a nice leisurely day. If I really wanted to, I could hurry something out on the 4th, but I just think leave it to people to watch the documentary first and then respond the day after. It is more logical. So yeah, I'm personally not concerned about it, but of course the proof's in the pudding. We'll have to see what comes out. So someone has said here, hi to Mark Wilkinson, and hi to C Nora as well. Someone has said here, HA-EL. Being totally honest, I'm nervous to watch the Netflix doc, so I feel it will have a lot of influence either way. What do you think? So I've kind of answered that question. I think it will certainly have influence because it's Netflix, and I think a lot of people will watch it, and it will probably attract more of an international audience than anything that has happened previously. For me, that's really good because the more people that know about this, the more they're going to see quickly. Remember as well, the Netflix audience that is watching this in America, they haven't been conditioned by the press coverage that people saw in this country. They haven't been hammered over the head by the BBC, etc., etc., etc. So they're just coming to this. Some people will know about it, of course. Jenny, who's been on the channel, who does her own videos, she's obviously been following it very carefully for a long time. And there's other people, I get a lot of viewers actually in the United States. But of course, it's still overwhelmingly a British issue. So there are going to be small number. I would assume the majority of the overseas audience that watch it won't know very much about the case. So they're not coming to it with the prejudice that the British audience was. So we've had to work hard over a period of time to convert those people. I would suggest an international audience will be a lot easier to convert because they don't come with any baggage. So I really don't feel nervous about it at all. I think it's an opportunity for us, not something to be wary about, not something to be scared about. But as I say, the proof will be in the pudding, of course. So AAC says Netflix turned Amanda Knox into America's sweetheart. Imagine what they could do for Lucy if they wanted. So, they may inadvertently help Lucy quite a lot. I think that I mean I haven't watched the Amanda. I mean I know very little about Amanda Knox's case. I must say, all I know is it's very hard to get out of prison. So I've always assumed that she was innocent, but I don't know very much about her case. I think so. I don't know what Netflix's content was like, but I think the difference is that I would imagine they covered Amanda Knox after she was released. That may not be true. Someone will have to let me know in the comments. I think it is difficult for Netflix or every broadcast. I mean, ITV is the only, no, Channel 5 as well. Both ITV and Channel 5 did pro innocence or pro miscarriage of justice content. I think for any other filmmaker or any other TV station, it can be difficult for them to come down too hard on one. Again, not just to come down hard on one side, but to come down hard on one side against the system. I suppose I don't share that problem, that kind of concern. I suppose I'm happy to do that, but others may, others may feel differently. There's a natural caution in the media, so yeah, Netflix could. I still hope that there would be a definitive pro miscarriage of justice documentary. But what I will say to you is, it's coming to the point where there won't be time, because there was a comment that Mark McDonald made recently, which indicated that this may be referred soon, and if it's referred soon, this may be in the court. In the Court of Appeal quite quickly. I don't know about that, but I will examine, because it takes a while to make one of these documentaries. I know Anouk was filming for quite a long time for the ITV one. So whether there would be time to make a new definitive feature-length one, I don't know. But it's absolutely true that anyone with a camera and knowledge of the case could, put a massive dent in the prosecution case and really influence public opinion. But I still believe this Netflix documentary will be more positive than negative. Hi to Martin, good to see you here. Ajto says, I have a feeling Cheshire Constabulary will have the mother of all omelets on their face after the Netflix doc. So obviously, if I have any influence on that, they definitely will. I think it's quite likely that they will, because can you imagine them getting through a documentary without saying anything stupid? Really? I can't. So that's the first problem. Secondly, they don't. We know everything they've done wrong, and they don't. I just can't see them having anything new. Like what new stuff are they going to have? An insight into our investigation. Well, we've seen the film you made yourselves, and that was an absolute disaster for you. So, with any kind of independent input, it's hard to believe that it won't be calamitous for them. There may be a small number of people that are convinced by it, but if this film is balanced, and Netflix say that it is, and the trailer implies that it is, then I think it will absolutely be a net positive for Lucy. Let's go a bit down. So Bernie said, supposed to be celebratory, arrest alone will gain Lucy more sympathy, and I agree with that. I think it's very likely, based on the footage that we've seen, that that Lucy will gain supporters and gain, as you say, sympathy from the, I think, very disproportionate arrest that we've seen on video now. But we're going to see more. So, I think I've commented on that in as much depth as I could, given that I don't know what's going to be in the film yet. I haven't had a steer regarding what's been in the film. I know lots of people that were invited to be part of it. I was never invited, but my name was mentioned. But everyone that I know who was invited declined. So they were concerned about being stitched up. They were concerned about, the fact that it was, I'm sure originally it was intended to be pro-guilt. I'm sure Netflix, they do a lot of true crime content, I believe. I know I always meant to watch these films about Jeffrey Dahmer, but I never got around to it because of Lucy's case. So one day, 5 or 6 years from now, I may watch some of those. But yeah, I think they're known for their true crime content, and they, I'm not critical in that. I'm not being critical of Netflix for saying this. They probably had no idea that there was anything untoward about this conviction. Just as there was this infamous drama that involved Jed Mercurio, It sounds like he's got a made-up name, but apparently it's his real name. And they probably thought, oh, we'll do a drama. This will be just like Mr. Bates in the Post Office, except about a guilty person. They probably had no idea what they were wading into. So I think I think it'll be positive for us. I really do. Liam says, listen to your most recent 2 videos back to back today. Very good indeed. Peter Donnelly one was fascinating. What a quality guest. Yeah, I mean, I'm very privileged. Thank you for the comment. Obviously, very privileged to connect with all of these people. I've got more interviews coming up. I've recorded quite a few, so they'll be released at some point. I've got a really busy period now, finishing off my book. I've been in contact a lot with the publisher, and we're doing all the kind of background stuff that you need to do to prepare for a book launch. So I'm doing all of that, and then still trying to keep YouTube going because it's been. I mean, I wrote some posts recently, and I haven't been as active with the comments because it's just become impossible across the platforms I'm on. Plus email. I get so many notifications now. I've had to cut back a bit. I mean, something has had to give. So I've cut back on the comments a bit. I haven't even had the chance to read through all of your comments from Peter Donnelly because I've just been busy working all day today. But I will catch up with them tomorrow. But yeah, I received so many nice remarks, and a few people said that I had been a part of. I mean, they said more than that, but I don't want to say exactly what they said. But they said that I had been a part of the shifting public mood, and I played a role in that. Now, I wouldn't make that claim myself. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, then I don't want to stop doing YouTube because that's helped, and I guess that it's helped lay the foundation for my book. So I do want to try and balance the two out and try to keep the content coming. It's hard work though, but I've managed to keep it going so far. Hi to Sarah. Hi from New Zealand. Good to see you. Hope everything's good over there. Netflix is just an extension of the BBC now. Netflix co-founder and first CEO Mark Randolph is the great nephew of Edward Bernays. That's interesting. That I didn't know that. So I believe I mentioned Edward Bernays before, who is famous for being the father of public relations, just kind of marketing propaganda, basically. Features prominently in a film that I've mentioned numerous times, which is Century of the Self by Adam Curtis, which is an excellent documentary. I'm trying to think I think Edward Bernays was the person who I know he promoted smoking to women. That's one of the things he promoted, but I think he also promoted eating bacon and eggs for breakfast. I think we only eat bacon and eggs for breakfast, or he popularized it, or he was involved in the popularization of that, but other things as well. And he worked out how it's an interesting thing to think about. If you go back and look at advertising from the 1940s or 1950s, or ancient advertising, it looks very weird. And part of that is because it's not sophisticated, but there's just a strange tone to it. And at first, it might not be immediately obvious what that is. But once you see this documentary, it does become obvious. And it is that advertisers thought, if you go back 80, 90 years, or however long, maybe even less than that, they thought the best way to sell a product to people was to tell you objectively, this is a good product. Here is why it's a good product. And these are the reasons that you need to purchase this product. Now, over time, Bernays was the first person who showed them that's not how you sell a product to people. The way that you sell a product to people is to make them to desire it. And the way that you make them desire it is to link it to their subconscious desires, but also make them believe that if they purchase this product, it will have an impact on their kind of image and on their lives in a kind of quite nebulous way. And now you see that idea dominating advertising. I think the best example is McDonald's. There's lots of good examples. McDonald's is obviously such a recognizable one because we all know what it is. And there's such a big company with such a big high street presence. And of course, what you see with McDonald's now is increasingly less actual food in any of their adverts. They just try and obviously they've particularly look at children as a potential audience, but they broadly speaking try to create feelings around their products, which is very effective. So that's what Edward Bernays was involved in. let's go a little bit further down. Why did the police deem it necessary to go into a bedroom and arrest her there and handcuff her? Outrageous. So, I mean, there's a very short answer to that question. There just is no justification for it. I don't see how they can possibly justify this. What else can I say? She wasn't a flight risk. She wasn't dangerous. She wasn't aggressive. She wasn't. She's not big and strong. I think having that, you can see there's a big police officer standing over a big male police officer who's, it's just completely unnecessary, not needed at all. But we'll be discussing this in the future, so we'll see what they actually say in this documentary. Nana L says, I bet they make a fuss of the notes again. So again, I just think that would backfire because we know these aren't confession notes. It's very clear that they're not. So yeah, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure that's possible, but everything they've got is out of date. The shift chart's out of date. The notes are out of date. Everything's out of date in their investigation. Lucy was always there. Blah de blah de blah. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be very convincing, but we'll see. Richard says, considering a 30-second trailer managed to blow the Pajamagate debacle to pieces, I think there will be gems of truth we can highlight much in the same way as the Third Wall farce revealed useful info. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure there's going to be stuff in this video that helps us. And I'm sure they're going to make mistakes. I'm sure they're going to say stupid things. But most importantly, as I mentioned, what are they going to bring to the table that actually shows that Lucy is guilty? If they already had something new, they would have shown it. They're not going to hold it back for the Netflix documentary. So they're going to be going over the same old talking points, the same old crap that's already been debunked. Anyone can review this. The national press can review this film, and they're going to tear it to shreds. If they sit there going, oh, we knew because of the shift chart that Lucy was always on duty, and look at this confession note, they're going to get absolutely annihilated in the press. It's not like the press are going to ignore this. Everyone is watching. That's what, I don't know if you heard, I think her name's Caroline Wheeler from the Sunday Times. I think her name's Caroline Wheeler. She was being interviewed by, I think it was LBC, and she said there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on this documentary. And of course there is. And, they better come up with something good. Otherwise, it's going to be an own goal. And that's what I expect, absolutely. And I'm not really, really concerned about it. It's amazing how much you know about this case. Thank you. Just hard work. I mean, I'm lucky that I have a good memory. If I'm passionate about something, I can remember things. So I do have a good memory in that regard. And I just invested myself in as much as I can. And I spoke to lots of people. And I just followed everything I could, and I read everything I could, and I looked at every single avenue, every single lead. I just followed it, even if it led nowhere. But I still think there's stuff that other people know that I don't know. I don't think I know everything because there's obviously stuff is still coming out. But it's, obviously it's changed my life quite a lot already and probably will more in the future. I just feel glad that I'm able to help a bit and that I encountered it. I'm sure by now I would have encountered it. But how much attention? I'm the kind of person I would be inquisitive about it, because if I saw an article saying this lady has been convicted, but there's kind of question marks, that would prick my conscience immediately and my inquisitiveness. So I'm sure I would have heard of it by now, and I'm sure I'd be paying a lot of attention. But the fact that I just happened to hear about it on the day of conviction is just pure luck, really. It's just, if you believe in destiny, it's just one of those things, I guess. Hi to Robbo, nice to see you. Glad you're here. Sword of Reason says, Cheshire Police has given us the gift from the gods. That arrest footage has given Lucy's parents the justification to speak out exactly the right time. Plus, they show unemotional Lucy being emotional. Yeah. It's very interesting to hear Lucy's parents speak. I didn't expect that. I don't know if anyone else did, but I really didn't expect Lucy's parents to say anything. It's very surprising, but what they said was obviously fair. I mean, I'm assuming they were advised on what to say and had their statement polished, but it will still be coming very sincerely from their beliefs. And yeah, I think as I say, I just don't think this will damage Lucy at all. I really don't. I think quite the opposite. Can we trust Netflix? Don't know. I'm sure Lucy's innocent. I follow your channel. Thank you for that, Marie. Listen, all I would say about Netflix is Netflix will do what suits Netflix. Netflix is an enormous multi-billion company that dwarfs Cheshire Police. Cheshire Police could push me around. They can't push Netflix. Not they will, because they'll never speak to me. But they can't push Netflix around. Absolutely no chance. Netflix will do what suits Netflix. The Cheshire Police will have tried to write in certain contractual terms into their agreement with Netflix, but Netflix will negotiate them with lawyers, with very powerful lawyers, as all billion-pound companies have. I don't know when let's see when Netflix ranks. Hold on a second. Yeah, so Netflix's revenue is $45.2 billion, right? So they're one of the biggest internet companies. Where are they on this list? They're not. Oh yeah, they're eighth. They're the eighth biggest internet company, and they're probably the third biggest name. Oh no, fourth actually. So the biggest, the top 8 internet companies are Amazon, Alphabet, JD.com. I wonder, is that the oh right, they're Chinese. Never heard of them. I thought it can't be JD Sport, surely. No, some Chinese company. Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance. So in the Western world, JD.com, Alibaba, Tencent are not well known. ByteDance is Chinese. So among Western companies, they're just behind Amazon, Facebook, and Google, and then they're ahead of PayPal. So can you imagine Cheshire Police turn up saying, "Oh, we're going to push Netflix around"? That's just not going to happen. So yeah, they will have fought their corner, and they will do what suits them. The last thing they're going to do is do a completely pro-innocence documentary and everyone saying Netflix have lost their marbles. They're idiots. This is a joke. They're going to do a balanced documentary. They have to try and shoehorn in the police footage and try and make the police look reasonable. But I mean, I think it will be similar to Channel 4, maybe a little bit more leaning towards the police because they've inked a contract with them. But at the end of the day, the police are not going to push Netflix around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. The House of Dragon, the TikTok stuff looks naff in it, but have to take into account all platforms and formats covering this case. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't keen on that, but if it gets young people watching, that's a big positive. So that's how we have to look at it. There's another person saying this is going to be an own goal, which I agree with. The prosecution barrister calling Lucy a liar over the pajamas arrest is the barrister telling lies. He's part of the conspiracy perverting the court of justice in court. Yeah. So I must point something out with regard to this. There is a small possibility the prosecution didn't know that what the police had done. It's possible that the police just showed them one arrest, and didn't show them any of the others. I'm pretty sure the prosecution would have not gone down that line if they knew. I don't know. You just never know. Maybe they did, but it's certainly possible the prosecution didn't know what we know now. But it's another massive own goal. So there's a question here about what viewing figures do Netflix usually get for crime documentaries. Good question. What figures? I mean, obviously, I have no idea to answer that question. Crime documentaries. Rubbish typing. So they're talking here about 10 million, 12.3 million for something, 19 million US viewers for something that's broadcast previously, 23 million for another one. Genre popularity, approximately 70% of Netflix's subscribers watch documentary content. So there you go. That's an AI answer to that question. So big figures for sure. Bit bigger than TV, of course. Back in the day, that would be a TV. When I was growing up, that would be a TV figure. Now TV doesn't get anywhere near that. So yeah, it's a big deal. Hi to Elder. Christopher Smether says, did Lucy get cross-examined by Nick Johnson saying about the tracksuit? The prosecution never said on which arrest that was. Yeah, absolutely. So we don't quite know what the prosecution saw, but we know that that entire part of the trial is complete rubbish. And in fact, again, this seems like I don't want to be too critical of the barrister again, but it seems like a slightly sloppy job by Ben Myers, because in a way he's highlighting the less traumatic arrest. He could have more highlighted the one where they barged into a bedroom, seemingly. But perhaps that was because he knew the court was going to be showing footage. I don't know if they were or not, but yeah, it's definitely highlighted. Obviously, even if what they were saying was true, that part of the trial is ridiculous anyway. But seeing as it's not even true, that has obviously highlighted how ridiculous it was. Question about the CCRC here. How much is going on in the background of the CCRC at this exact moment in time? So the answer to that question is nobody knows, and I certainly don't know. But it's reasonable to presume that there's quite a lot going on. I'm sure that discussions are taking place. They'll obviously be working on this case. Hopefully, we're going to get a referral soon. So Martin says, online, particularly YouTube, it's mainly pro-innocent content. This certainly encourages confirmation bias. Well, I think the reason for that, given that there's been an overwhelming amount of coverage from day one of guilt, the reason that it's slanted now in that direction is because every single aspect of the prosecution case has fallen apart, and genuinely and generally speaking, people don't believe that Lucy's guilty anymore. It's just all the content is a reflection of that reality. It's as simple as that. That's why it's not that people feel that way for no reason and then that has slanted the coverage. It's that they've seen coverage and that has changed their opinion, and that's now why the majority of content, overwhelming majority, is that way. And that's not going to change. That's going to become more ingrained. So, I don't know how people feel about that, who are on the fence, but you'll have to get used to it. Robert Baltovich put a comment up on X. Yes, I don't know anything about that, but that's very interesting. Apparently, he was wrongly convicted. So thank you for letting me know about that. I will have a look at that and investigate that. From what I've seen of the police footage so far, it can only generate sympathy and work in a favour. I'm sure the CCRC will be watching with eagle eyes. Let's hope they respond positively. So they're going to refer this case. The challenge is going to be with the Court of Appeal. They just need to do it quickly, as soon as possible. House of Dragon says Stonia. This is Danielle Stonia, who appeared in the previous police documentary. I've got to stop calling it documentary. Previous police film that they made that's on YouTube, and was also interviewed by Liz Hull, and also conducted 2/3 of Lucy's interviews, as well as being a family liaison officer. I doubt that she will come of it looking good, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Lucy was sacked before being accused due to reputational harm to hospital. I wonder if the same would apply to other staff. I think that I can't really talk about this credibly. Other people have. I think, as I've said to you before, a hospital is an enormous business. We don't always look at it that way, but it's an enormous commercial entity. I did a bit of research. Someone sent me some figures on how much it costs to build a hospital, or the likely kind of commercial value of a hospital. And a hospital, certainly a large hospital in any town or city in the country, other than Liverpool, Manchester, and London, is the biggest, local business or local commercial entity. There are banks that are bigger, there are corporations that are bigger, but there's no local businesses that are bigger. It's only I think it's Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Man City. Did I say Chelsea? Just a handful of football clubs that'll be bigger. Even in Birmingham, Aston Villa are not as big as a hospital in terms of revenue and commercial value. So what I would say for any business of that size, they are always organised. They always have lots of lawyers. They always have lots of PR people. They always have lots of people telling them what they should and shouldn't do, or shouldn't say. And they're likely to they're not going to allow one person to bring them down or damage them generally. So there's some figures here getting for Netflix, looking at 36 million, 29 million, 27 million. What I think we can say confidently is that this is going to be bigger than TV. I hadn't really thought of that aspect of it. I just thought the international aspect of it, which obviously makes a big difference. But people watch these. I don't have time to watch any. I mean, it was actually. I don't watch TV at all now, like not at all. So when I was watching Lucy's the ITV documentary on Lucy, I was watching the adverts for the programs, and I was like, "Is this what TV's like all the time? This is horrendous." But obviously, I know a lot of people watch these Netflix platforms and such like. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's very significant. It's obviously something we need to watch very carefully. We need to respond to thoroughly and strongly as a community, for sure. Dominic Santini, why did her parents berate Netflix for showing her arrests? I think it's just it's traumatizing for them. It's an invasion of privacy. It's potentially putting them in a vulnerable position. And I think I would rather, if it was me, I would have put all the blame on the police, personally, because at the end of the day, Netflix, they make a lot of content. I honestly wouldn't be critical of Netflix. Their job is to put out content. They have to put out a lot of content. They need to keep making new content all the time. As you've seen, they're a multi-billion-dollar business. If they're given something juicy, they're going to publish it and they're going to broadcast it. They're not bound as well. I don't know how the law works exactly, but they're not bound by the same broadcasting regulations, perhaps. I know they will be bound by broadcasting regulations, but I think a more mainstream TV channel that's on traditional television has more constraints, and also they have to please advertisers, with Netflix just have to please subscribers. So all Netflix cares about is eyeballs on the screen. I think that the police should bear the brunt of criticism because it's their decision to do this. It's their decision to go to Netflix. Of course, Netflix are going to take it if they know it's a big story. But I think as much as this is upsetting for Lucy's parents, and as much as I endorse what they said, one day they might actually be very grateful that Netflix filmed their house and put this out, even though they may not feel that way now. What time is it on Netflix? So I've heard 8 a.m. So apparently they usually premiere things at 8 a.m. So it's slightly worrying. It worries me slightly that the Netflix servers could crash or something like that, and I won't be able to watch it, but I'm sure they've got good servers. So sort of reasons mentioned this, 75% of Sun readers say Lucy should have a retrial, so that's enormous. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Himmelhauser saying Netflix will be most interested in crafting a suspenseful narrative. Plain reinforcement of guilt will be boring. They want this to be a cliffhanger. Bad luck, Cheshire Police. So yeah, I'm certain that there will be a lot of good stuff in there. It'll be very interesting to see what they come out with. I'm sensing there will be revelations of Letby's guilt. Why else are the police revealing unseen footage? So the answer to that question, Martin, is that the police thought this was going to be like the end of a Formula One race where the checkered flags come down and they just get to trundle around the circuit 60 miles per hour, waving to people going, aren't we great? We've just won the Monaco Grand Prix. Unfortunately, it's not going to be like that for them. They're just going to get hammered and hammered and hammered from now on. So I don't think there will be new revelations. They'll try to get something new in there. But at the end of the day, if they had something big that was significant, it would have come out before now. They would have told someone before now. There would have been the court case, apart from anything else. So I'm really not too concerned. But as I say, I don't know what's in the documentary. We'll just have to wait and see. So Sarah, who's from New Zealand, says, you are absolutely right when you say an international audience may be easier to convert as they don't carry all the baggage. All it took for me was the Dr. Lee press conference. So there you go, as it would. And to be honest, I mean, let's be fair, that's been enormously influential in Britain. If people see something, if they get the chance to see it, then they are going to say, no matter what they thought previously, they are going to think, hold on a second, these doctors look at the caliber of these people. They're not going to say this for no reason. I'm not going to read that comment because I don't wish to promote that. I don't know if you describe it as an establishment because they publish online. Everyone will have seen it. I didn't watch it, but I'm aware of it. We now know that the police were told beforehand the consultants were targeting Lucy, yet still allowed them to run the investigation. Yes, it does say it all about the police. It's a little bit staggering, even at this stage. We know a lot, obviously, but it's still staggering at this stage to see what the police have done. There is no explanation. Of course, we've seen this in the Daily Telegraph already, but there is no conceivable explanation why they wouldn't involve other specialists and ignore them. I mean, it just beggars belief. And now we know that they ignored Lucy's parents when they went into the station. They never investigated the grievance process. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it truly is such. I mean, you actually can't believe it. I assumed, as I said in that video, that the Dr. Evans blinded them with science and they got confused. I didn't think they had someone recommending them and telling them what to do. And not some random person like the National Crime Agency, but they just completely ignored them for no reason. So Dominic's saying here, the parents seem to be more bothered about her being arrested the way she was rather than her being guilty. Well, obviously they believe Lucy to be innocent. They made that clear. So I think they wanted to just make the point that this is an invasion of privacy and it puts them in a vulnerable position. I'm sure that they will be very, very upset about the existing situation, no doubt. So it's comment here about Jed Mercurio being mates with Ravi. So they definitely have a connection. Whether or not they're friends, I don't know, but they definitely have a connection. House of Dragon asked, no consultants in the Netflix doc. Why? Probably because they've understandably decided to keep a low profile. I think they're not going to come out and speak to anyone, and they're just going to hope this goes away, is my opinion. Yelva says, the Ducking Stool had a quite harrowing video today covering the start of the trial. It's a revealing input into the comments between Myers and Goss. So I think I read out recently what Ben Myers said about Lucy, that she was, she wasn't compos mentis. I mean, she was in an absolutely terrible state at the start of this trial. It's very upsetting to know that an intelligent woman was reduced to almost a catatonic state. Just awful. It's good to hear she's made something of a recovery. Hopefully that will continue. The only way that Cheshire Police could come out in a better light is if actors are used to play the detectives, as even a grade C actor could come across as more competent. I mean, it's hard to imagine that they will come out of this positively, certainly, given what we've seen from them previously. Very, very difficult. Do you think Mark MacDonald is co-working with the media? Though some articles have come thick and fast, the Letby parents must have moved with Mark's agreement backing. I don't know is the answer to the first question. I don't know if Mark was involved in the media stuff. I don't think he was, but I don't know. I think the Sun have been interested in this. Well, I can tell you a little bit of what I know, which is the Sun have been interested in this case for a while. They've been speaking to people for a while. And I think probably, I don't know this is speculation, they reached the point where they thought we need to come down on one side or other of this editorially. And before we do that, we need to be sure we're right. And they took some steps. Obviously, they invite this police guy who's been mentioned, and he looked at the case and he said, "Well, it's not a safe conviction." So I think that once they got that back, they were like, "Right, well, that's it. We're going to come down hard on there needs to be a retrial," and they won't stop now. So that's a massive positive, obviously. In terms of Lucy's parents having Mark's agreement and backing, it seems likely to me, although I can't say for certain, but it seems likely to me that they would have had discourse with Mark. But of course, I've not spoken to Lucy's parents or even attempted to speak to Lucy's parents, so I don't know. So just to comment that it's not fair to show images of Lucy's home without their permission or even notifying them. Yeah, I mean, it is actually a little bit. I mean, you could. I mean, I suppose I don't know. People can identify things very easily now, can't they? So, yeah, I can definitely see that argument. It's it would be difficult, wouldn't it? Let's be fair. I mean, they've already been through an enormous ordeal as it is, and I mean, then imagine seeing your home up on TV. It can't be very difficult. It can't be very easy to deal with, rather. So someone says, I don't need to acknowledge all my comments, Chris. I make them to help the algorithm and to chat with other commenters. Yeah, I'm aware of that. And people have been really supportive and really understanding that I'm not responding to as many as I used to. I do want to. I just can't. Unless someone can clone me or Kiko can learn how to type, it's just not possible. But I do. The thing is, I want to do it. I want to interact with people and I want to, because I love having a community and I love reading people's comments, and I will definitely read the comments from the last video that went out today. I just haven't had time, and I thought I should do this while there's a little break. And I know I won't have much time to do many live streams the rest of this month. Hi to Lynn, good to see you here. Jed Mercurio wrote Cardiac Arrest and Bodies. I didn't know that, but I've seen Cardiac Arrest. Bernays is the nephew of Sigmund Freud's. Yeah, so that's in the first part of Century of the Self. Very, very good film. Does the Netflix film show her 2019 arrest or a final 2020 arrest? I'm not sure, but I think it's quite possible they're going to show footage from multiple arrests. We'll just have to wait and see how clear that is made in the documentary itself. The 150-page document confirmed my suspicions regarding the investigation. Dewey's comments seemed like he knew he was given more info than he should have been, so wanted to shut down any accusations of bias. It does seem that way to me. I mean, I obviously agree completely. Are you having a guest on live this evening, Chris? No, I didn't have time to arrange one. Jonathan will come back on again in future. I mean, that was a big success. I mean, I actually really liked having him here because I could speak less, but I just didn't have time to arrange that. But hopefully we'll have more guests in the future. I think at some point in the future, some period when my book's been out and I've done everything that I'm required to do in relation to my book and it's been published, and I'm not going to be bombing around doing different things, I will be able to just focus on YouTube alone until Lucy's exonerated. Although I'm bound to end up writing other books, but I'm going to allow myself a break where I don't do that, I think. And at that point, I'll be able to be more organized, but that's going to be months from now. At the moment, it's a constant firefighting escapade to try and keep things going and record, with the best quality content I can and get it out there. The police have a procedure that they follow when they arrest someone. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true. I would question whether procedurally they need to barge into the bedroom of a young woman at 6 o'clock in the morning and threaten her with a SWAT team and a very big burly guy standing over and terrifying her. I would question whether they needed to do that. I don't think that's part of their procedure. I don't think that's procedurally justified. They knew where she was. They'd arrested her twice. They'd interviewed her twice. She wasn't a flight risk. She wasn't dangerous. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. They had loads of people. She's a young woman. I could overpower her on my own without any weapons, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, come on. It's just not procedurally justified. It just isn't. Hello to Matthew Hayden, who says, hello from your favourite Australian cricketer. So if you're not aware, Matthew Hayden used to open the batting for Australia. I think statistically the most successful opener of all time. I'm sure Matthew gets a bit fed up of hearing about this, but at least Matthew Hayden isn't really famous in this country. If you lived in Australia, it'd probably be a lot more annoying, I would say. I hope the Netflix doc is fair to Lucy. So I do think it will be. We'll have to wait and see. Hearing that her parents went to the police explains why the consultants went nuclear. Possibly. However, it's the police's job to investigate dispassionately and to contextually understand what happened at the hospital. I just can't imagine what the hell they've done. I mean, I know what they've done. They've allowed the consultants to walk in and say, oh, look, it's consultants in our little police station, actual consultants. Oh my God, we've got to help them. It's pathetic. Yeah. So an interesting comment there about Evans. Obviously, these documents that come out don't look good for him. Pediatric nurse here. Hi, Jane. Great to have you here. Thank you for the work that you do. House of Dragon says The Guardian will rip Netflix apart. I'm sure they're going to get an absolute hammering, but they'll have to make it balanced. The thing is, they will have to make it balanced because otherwise they will get ripped apart. So there's no doubt. I mean, I'm not concerned about this at all. Martin says, don't forget to like the live stream to help the algorithm. So that would, of course, be appreciated. And also commenting when it goes live. Just to let people know, after this is finished, what I've been doing is making it private. And then, because I had some problems with YouTube flagging previous live streams. So if I do a little pause, it's fine. And I think the problem I was having is that when you post a normal video on YouTube, you get to fill in a lot of information and tell YouTube lots of stuff about the video. And I wasn't doing that because it was a live stream. And I didn't realize, well, it never really occurred to me, to be honest, which was a bit stupid. But if I just hold it back and fill in all the information that I can, it seems to be absolutely fine. So a couple of people said, I click on this and it's not live. The reason is because I'm filling in the contextual information so that the system can process it better. Ham Woolard says, every time Dowie speaks, he stitches himself up. And we're going to see some gems, I'm sure, from him in this documentary. Hi, Chris. John Bailey says, I've joined slightly late. Thanks for all your work you're doing to shine a light on this case. Thank you for being here, John, and thank you for the support. Very much appreciated. Senor says, I gave birth at the Council of Chester in 2015 and 2020. I went to have a look today for you. Both sides of the building where maternity and labour wards used to be are still there, but you can't enter. Thank you. That's very interesting. So I know Michelle's told me they're going to demolish the old neonatal unit. But seems that maybe that hasn't happened yet. Canonical Ensemble says, I'm worried it might contain some emotional statements from the parents that might manipulate the view into being less objective. There are statements from the parents, yes. And of course, that will be an aspect of the film, but we'll just have to wait and see, what that content is like and how people respond to it. I still think, we've discussed this already, but in Britain, the tide has turned now. In other countries, they haven't been programmed and conditioned to think that Lucy is guilty. For most people, this is the first time they've seen it. They will watch this out of interest and they will think, that's interesting. There's two sides to this story. Or they may think, well, I didn't see anything convincing to say that she's guilty. Some will be emotionally affected, but I do think it'll be a positive, but we'll have to wait and see. What's the forward legal process when Lucy has been found to be the victim of miscarriage of justice? Is that the conviction is quashed? Release what then? So it's open to debate. It's open to the Court of Appeal can do whatever they want. They have the power to quash the conviction. They have the power to order a retrial. So they can do either of those two things. If the conviction is quashed, then Lucy is released at the earliest possible opportunity. If there is a retrial, certainly I will use my voice at that time to say Lucy should be released on house arrest until the trial takes place, and others will do so who have more clout than me, I've no doubt. And then we just wait for the retrial. I can't make any predictions on that. I've discussed it many times previously. I can't. Mark McDonald believes there would be a retrial, but it's very hard to say. I can't see how they could put a prosecution case in court, but we'll just have to wait and see. The bottom line is there is no hard evidence of murder, so why on earth is somebody in prison for murder? It's simply because there's been a court conviction. So the court has ultimate authority in that respect. And that's all there is to it. Even when it's very, 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 very obvious, until the court acts in such a way as to overturn the evidence, the person remains in prison. It's as simple as that. Hi to Douglas, good to see you here. Wesley says, you deserve a satisfactory feeling of helping for sure, Chris. Well, thank you. I don't allow myself to rest on my laurels or pat myself on the back. I just keep going, because we're winning, but we haven't won, that's for sure. Goss departing the scene 2 years before he was contracted to rats departing a sinking ship. I don't know. So this is reference to Judge James Goss retiring. These people have pretty thick skin, I'll say that. So, yeah. I'm not sure it's necessarily related to Lucy's case. Of course, it could be. Do we know what Lucy's Datix comments said? We know what some of them said. I did have a neonatal nurse look at Lucy's comments, Datex, and she said she's the most professional person on the internet. So they've looked through everything that's available in terms of Datex. So that tells you everything you need to know. I don't get why people are so against reinvestigation and retrial if she's guilty. So the answer to that question is you're putting a lot of people through more trauma for something that we know really has no solidity. And it could go on for a very long time. This person, Lewis, also makes the comment, surely it would nail her either way. It puts it to bed once and for all. Yes, that's obviously the argument for a retrial. And it may be that it's felt that there is a public need for there to be a retrial. We'll have to wait and see. I think Goss retiring is indicative of the establishment preparing to concede it's a miscarriage of justice. The judiciary rarely, if ever, admits MOJs have happened until the judge involved retires. Hopefully it helps. We'll have to wait and see. Let's just go a bit down. What will happen to Dewi? So I assume this means what will happen to him in the event of exoneration. The reality is it will depend on whether he's alive. If he's alive, then he'll come under enormous scrutiny, undoubtedly. It's hard to say exactly, but if he thinks he's just going to walk away and say, whoops, I mean, it'll be fascinating to see. Let's just get to that day and find out what happens, because I can't wait to see that day. Hi to Tiff, great to have you here. She says, I've got to get, she's down under, and I made it, but got to get ready for work. You need to stop listening to Media Factory. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. Will be interesting to see. What would happen if the Netflix documentary says Lucy's guilty? So we already know that it's not going to say that. So this is obviously hypothetical. I think if in the first of all, we know that's not going to happen, but in the unbelievably unlikely event that occurred, they would be absolutely slaughtered. So they're just not going to do that. It would be an enormous dent in their credibility, and they're just not going to. Anyway, we know they haven't done it, but there's no way they would do that at this point, is the answer to your question. What will happen to Evans, Brewery, and J-Ram? So just kind of, addressed Evans a little bit. Brewery and J-Ram will face enormous scrutiny. If they think they can just disappear, that they won't be able to. They will definitely face scrutiny. So we don't know what the ultimate outcome and consequence of that will be, but they're not just going to be able to walk away from this. By the way, we've got a lot of viewers today due to the Netflix and everything. So I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but I'm way behind. I'll just try and keep going for as long as I can. I was quite tired before this began, so I fell asleep in the bath. So I'm absolutely fine, but I'll just keep going. I don't know if I'll be able to get through every comment today. We'll see. Is the documentary and all the other revelations in the media, CPS retirement, etc., all timed deliberately? Is it because there's going to be an announcement from the CCRC? It does seem rather a coincidence, topsy-turvy. I will say that. I don't know the answer to that question, and I wouldn't wish to speculate, but it does suddenly seem that there's been an avalanche of news after a little bit of a quiet period, and that could be indicative of something significant. Hi to Stuart. Nice to have you here. Tiff says, delight to see the Letby speak out. They deserve a voice, let's be fair. It must be purgatory for them. They've got to try and get on with their lives. How can they possibly do that? People are talking about their daughter all the time. Even people are talking favorably about her, talking about her. Excuse me. It's good to see them finally express their voice, express their opinion. You've got to wonder if this Netflix documentary will attract a large audience of young people, as you said it may do, and this has a negative effect on the number of young people taking up nursing. Well, it's an interesting question and comment. We don't know. I think that if people see the quality of evidence that is required to convict a nurse working in a hospital of very serious offences, it wouldn't encourage me to go and work in a hospital. That's for sure. So Sort of Reading says, I believe Johnson offered to show Lucy footage of first and second arrest, and he told her what she was wearing at third. What he did was switch. Yeah, that's correct. So there's going to be more written material on this. So it's fair to say that. Obviously, this is. We don't know if this really had any impact on the trial. It may not have any. This may not have had any impact on the jury, of course. It is just some complete nonsense, and maybe the jury would have seen through it. We don't really know, but it shouldn't be in the trial, obviously. And now we know how ridiculous it was. Of course, it's ridiculous anyway. So that's already a positive of this trailer, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the documentary. There's witnesses that were mentioned in the trial, trainee nurses. I don't know if they've been warned by NHS nursing management. So we know that managers in the NHS did warn some nurses not to appear as witnesses in the court case. We don't know the extent of that. We don't know exactly what was said. We just know there's been this Daily Telegraph article in which one nurse was and indicated that she and others were told, "Oh, this will damage your career if you agree to be a character witness for Lucy," which is obviously totally wrong. But that didn't really surprise me, to be honest, because I know how organisations work, big organisations. It's not surprising to me. Let's scroll down a bit. Any truth in the rumour that Cheshire Constabulary have been renamed Police Squad? So I should explain this reference to people that don't know. That was a series featuring Leslie Nielsen that was a bit like The Naked Gun. I think The Naked Gun was a spin-off from Police Squad, in which Leslie Nielsen is a very incompetent police officer. I don't know if that's true, but I think I would suggest that Leslie Nielsen is funnier than any of Cheshire Constabulary, having also been in Airplane, which is a great film. So there's a comment about Susanna Reid. I really can't comment on her. And anything I said would be so rude that I would regret it. So she doesn't even seem to realise that ITV broadcast a documentary about Lucy, about this being a miscarriage of justice. But anyway, that's by the by. Broadly speaking, I agree with your comments. So regarding Liz Hull, if you want to message her, she's on Twitter. She probably doesn't read her comments. You could try emailing the Mail on the Daily Mail, I suppose. I don't think she's going to be affected by anything that you say in any way, but you could try. Let's go a little bit further down. Given all the recent developments, has your timeline of Lucy's possible release changed at all? That's a very good question. When I saw the Sun front page, that was the first time I thought we've got a real chance of getting her out by next year. Because it can, once public opinion turns, it can accelerate very quickly. And it's possible that the justice system wouldn't go for a retrial. However, that's not guaranteed. So what I would say in answer to your question, I think that recent developments increase the possibility of an earlier release. And if this continues, if the Sun continue, and if public opinion continues to shift, then the probability will increase favourably for Lucy. That's just my opinion. But I think that's a pretty sound view. I don't think anyone could really disagree with that. Pilkey, I think that says. Chris, great work, and I will buy your book. Thank you very much. I've been doing some work on my book. I've still got more to do. You'd think I would finish, but not at all. So I'll still have loads more to do over the next couple of months. And it's been decided that I will record the audiobook. So at some point I'll have to go and record the audiobook, which promises to be a very interesting experience, but also quite draining, I should imagine. But yeah, it's I really appreciate the support, and I'll update people on that as soon as I can. So someone makes a comment here that I wish Nadine Dorries had said, yes, Susanna, that generally tends to be the nature of a miscarriage of justice about her being found guilty in a court of law. So I've been waiting to be asked that question, because I will give that response. I'll say that's true of the Birmingham Six. That's true of the Post Office inquiry. That's true of any miscarriage of justice. There's always a court. There's always barristers. There's always a jury. All of Liz's favourite things. That happens in every miscarriage of justice. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in prison in the first place. So essentially, saying that it was in a court of law is meaningless, utterly meaningless. Of course, it's in a court of law. Where would you expect it to be? But I don't know if I'll be quite that abrasive. But I mean, I would say, yes, of course, it's in a court of law. All miscarriages, I'd explain what I just explained. And I think it's a very obvious response. I don't know why. So, I mean, a lot of people in this world, and I discussed this in a recent video. I was discussing Chomsky and Andrew Marr, and I was saying that people that believe in the system tend to escalate or be elevated to high positions within the system and within organizations. The system selects for compliance. I pilfered that phrase from someone else. And it's not, again, I showed you what Chomsky said to Andrew Marr, where he was saying, look, I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. All I'm saying is, if you didn't believe it, you wouldn't be sitting there now. And you don't get to see the reaction, but Andrew Marr's like gobsmacked, has no response and is knocked back for a couple of seconds and then continues. And what is particularly notable about that interview is that Andrew Marr learned nothing from that interview whatsoever. Like he was put in an incredibly privileged position. I don't think he even viewed it as a privileged position. I think he thought, I'll take this guy to the cleaners. I'll show him about the media and all this. Obviously he didn't, because Chomsky, knows his stuff on a level that Andrew Marr never will. So he went through the interview. Chomsky absolutely schooled him, and then he learned nothing from it. And to this day, he will describe Chomsky as like a conspiracy theorist and stuff. The guy's just an idiot. But idiot, they can rise in organizations, and that's what this lady is. Unfortunately, she's not very bright, and let's just not say any more than that. Let's just, in case I have to speak to her one day. Let's just go a little bit further down. Will Lucy get a new identity? I think this is very possible. I couldn't say definitively that she will, but it does seem quite likely, I would say. Let's go a little bit further down. How long is the documentary on for, Chris? Good question. I do not know that answer, but let's see if the internet can answer that question. So it will be a long documentary. Oh, I can't type. Hold on. 1 hour 30 minutes. AI here is talking about it as if it's in the past, but yeah, apparently it's 90 minutes, so it won't be as long as some of the other. Well, no, it's about the same length. It's slightly shorter than Channel 4, I think. Yeah, so 90 minutes. Someone's saying the way the police have gone about this beggars belief. Got it. I had a bit of skin stuck. Sorry about that. The way the police have gone about this beggars belief, they have done nothing to investigate possible miscarriage of justice, but have tried to reinforce their original decisions. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm not that surprised. But what you can say is that it's deeply incompetent, what they've done, clearly. So there were comments about the coronial inquest here and a detective inspector having been appointed. So, I mean, it seems quite obvious to me that this is a pathetic PR move and gambit from the police. But we'll have to wait and see. I'll be asking Stephanie about that soon. She's already told me a bit about it. So I'll find out more about that soon. There is big global news, but no, the BBC Newsnight have never covered Letby's story since the conviction. Yeah, again, not surprising. We know what the BBC is like by now. I've covered them on the channel. They're not objective, and they just don't do stuff that goes against the establishment. They just don't. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah, she will be released, but such a waste of her life being in prison this long. What is it, 6 years now? Yeah, it's 5 years. I forget exactly what month she was incarcerated in 2020, but it's 5 years and some months, 6 Christmases that I mentioned. Hi to Anna, who's here now. Every time I see the Netflix trailer, it made me sick. I will definitely wait for your review before I give it a view. Yeah. Obviously, it'd be great if everyone thought that and I got 27 million views, but I guess that's not very likely. But yeah, thank you for that, Anna. I appreciate it. It's going to be a documentary like Paradise Lost, which laid out the evidence methodically on the West Memphis 3. When they do that, the holes will be exposed. Interesting. I don't know about that, but I hope that it's. I hope that what you're saying is true. Let's go a bit further down. So I just want to. There's a comment here about a PR company. So I just want to explain something to people that think the PR company is significant. If you do something important in your life and it goes into the mainstream media, you have a PR company in all circumstances. The only time you don't have a PR company is if you're not significant enough to have a PR company. It's as simple as that. If you're going to be in the mainstream press and if you're going to be doing something that will go out onto the national stage, you either have an agent or you have a PR company, or in most cases, you have both. So the fact that there's a PR company that has organized some of these events is utterly meaningless. And frankly, anyone that believes otherwise is just completely clueless about life and about the way things work. Because, I mean, if you imagine a much more trivial matter, let's say you've been on Love Island. They all have PR companies representing them and helping them and assisting them and media training and all that kind of stuff. You have to have that. You can't, because firstly, you need it to go out into the media. And secondly, more importantly, you need them to manage all the appointments and all the things that you're going to be doing. That's just a fact of life. And anyone that believes otherwise is just stupid, frankly. It's just of no significance whatsoever. And I think people that don't understand that are just dense, frankly. But anyway, if you didn't understand that, now you do. The reason that other people, I won't mention some of their names, but there are certain people who mention the PR company online as if it's significant. The reason none of them have a PR company is because nothing they've done requires a PR company, because no one cares who they are and no one cares about anything that they've done. So they don't need a PR company. As soon as they do anything that's even remotely successful, they will get a PR company, but that'll just never happen probably. Just to make that clear. Yeah, so just go a bit further down. Some more comments that I'm just gonna miss out because they're related to stuff we've discussed already. I agree with them. You're doing an amazing job. Well done. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good to see Lucy's parents putting Hughes in the frame. He needs to be held to account. I agree. I'm sure that'll never happen. The police always manage to weasel their way out of it, so probably won't be. Let's go a bit further down again. So great and brave for parents to defend her on ITV Morning with Nadine Dorries. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see. It's really good to see. I'm glad her parents have had their say. They deserve their say. I think they've handled it perfectly. I think they were right to stay out of the media as much as possible, but they absolutely 100% deserve to be able to say something. And it's absolutely right that they have said something. Yeah, so there's some comments about Netflix being worrying because of content they made previously. As I've said already, I'm not too concerned about that. I think it'll be absolutely fine. I'm not worried about it. I guess the most worrying thing is the parents being in it. I believe it's the parents of Child E and Child F, but let's just cross that bridge when we come to it. Obviously, I'll handle their section of the documentary as sensitively as possible, as I did with Channel 4. What's the thing about Liz Hull? I haven't seen all the vids about her, and I was wondering if one of you could summarize her part in this, please. So she made a podcast for the Daily Mail, and she's desperately clinging to a guilty narrative. And I always make this joke about her. She always says, I just say, of course I was in court all the time, or Caroline Cheetham, who's a partner in crime, will say, of course, Liz, you were at the court. You were at court. You were at trial every day. So, I always do this joke about, were you at court, Liz? I've never heard you mention that before. You really should bring that up more often. So, it's just kind of making fun of her. It's the kind of thing that would really annoy her, because she probably has a big sense of pride about the fact she was in court, given that she mentions it every time she speaks. So it's just kind of making fun of her, There's a guy on. I don't listen to it because I find it unbearable, but there's a guy on TalkSport who used to be the director of Crystal Palace, and I've always wanted to say to him exactly that. Were you really the director? I didn't realize you owned Crystal Palace, Simon. I never heard you bring that up before. You really should mention that more often. But I don't think I'll ever get the chance to do that. It's just people that go on and on about the same thing. I'm glad people have picked me up on the fact that I mentioned chess quite a few times, because I didn't realize I had. So it's good to. I found it. Someone was teasing me about that, so I found that funny. And hopefully Liz can take a joke, but she doesn't strike me as the kind of person that can. So Esther Ranson, yeah, I listened to a radio interview, so that was good. Let me mention for overseas viewers, Esther Ranson is very famous in Britain. She used to be on a program called That's Life. She's famous for doing lots of campaigning. At one time, she was a very, very famous person. She's probably slightly less famous now, because it's been she's been a while since she's been in the public eye, but she's still very well known. It's hilarious when people discount people's opinion because they weren't at the trial. Yeah, I mean, basically what that means is no one is allowed to have an opinion, apart from some. But that is just used. I mean, as I've said numerous times, I'll say it yet again. Court proceedings need to be more transparent. There needs to be very clear transcripts made available publicly, or they need to be recorded. I can't see any reason why they can't be recorded in this day and age. I can't see any reason it happens in other countries, it should happen in this country. And then that pathetic argument that is made about, oh, you weren't in court. Yeah, well, I've seen the video like everyone else. Think how fast things have moved now. Imagine how fast they would have moved if we had video of Nick Johnson, going, "Oh, so Lucy, were you wearing your pajamas?" Or Lucy, this, Lucy, what? Do you remember being born? What about your shredder, Lucy? All this kind of nonsense. Let alone Evans. Can you imagine how it looks bad in the transcripts? Can you imagine how much he dithered in court when he was? Why have you changed the day, Dr. Evans? Or like this embarrassing, I've pointed out this embarrassing moment where he starts going, look, I never knew Lucy Letby's name at the start of my investigation. The judge has to say, yeah, we've heard this before, Dr. Evans. It's irrelevant. You weren't being asked about that. It would be so much better off and it would have been so much quicker. So this has to change in my view. So Dominic, obviously you're a desperate individual who wishes to claim that Lucy Letby is guilty. You've already asked me this question about Netflix. I've already answered it, so I'm not going to answer it again. Hi, Nana. Chris, I have to go now, unfortunately, but I'm made up to have caught alive and be number one at that. Yay. Yeah, that was amazing. I'm very happy for you. It's amazing the time and effort you put into this case. Looking forward to your Netflix review. Thank you for your support, and I'm glad you could be here. And I will publish the recording online, of course. You've worked so hard and have established way beyond reasonable doubt that Lucy's innocent for so many reasons. You should be immensely proud. Don't burn out. Save your energy for your book launch. Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I am tired. I'm not going to lie. But there's going to come a point where I will have finished my book and it'll be in the can and it'll be with a printer. Then I'll have less work to do. Obviously, I'll still be doing YouTube. I need to keep this going. It's very important. I won't burn out. I mean, I'm a hard worker. I worked hard to establish myself as a writer. It's not easy to do. You've got to be very dedicated. I'm very driven. And I wouldn't say I'm a workaholic. I don't think that's true. But I'm a very goal-oriented person. So we have an enormous goal. I wish I wasn't. I actually genuinely wish I was less goal-oriented because I just can't, I can't do anything, or I find it difficult to do things for fun. Like play a game for fun. Like I have to be good at the game, otherwise I can't do it. And that's a shame because it's good to do things for fun and enjoyment, but I just struggle to do that. So, I mean, I am very goal-oriented and very work-oriented, so it's no problem for me. And I do try to make sure I balance my time reasonably and find I mean, for starters, I have to look after Keeks every day and make sure we do fun things. So we go out for a walk, big walk in the woods, in the hills every day. I know that's not relaxing, but it's replenishing. So yeah, everything's fine. Hi to Jenny, great to see you here. So someone's asking when this is on Netflix. So it's the 4th of February. So 2 days time. So that's why I'm doing this live stream today, because I'm not recording anything for the 4th, because of the Netflix documentary. So this will be available tomorrow, then there'll be a break for Netflix, and then I'll record the review for the 5th. And I've got other content coming up that you're going to enjoy related to Netflix. You're doing great, Chris, with the time you have, and I feel lucky to have this channel. Thank you. I mean, I can't properly put into words, how much the support means and how much it means to have a community that follows me. And I get so much appreciation. And, the only way I can repay that is by doing the best I can and giving the best that I've got. So that's what I do. I think the fact Lucy's parents have spoken out shows they feel more confident with I think you're right, with the huge amount of support. I think you're right. I think they feel, they can say something now. I hope they feel that way. So Jenny says, your video today with the microbiologist was pure gold. Yeah, thank you for that. That's mostly down to him, of course. It was good. It was really good. So we'll hear more from him in the future, no doubt. I was really glad he got in contact with me, and definitely another entry that I'm proud of. I should go a bit further down. Yes, I've already addressed that. So there's more questions about Ravi Jairam's perjury. So I'll just have to say what I always say is that this will never be addressed while Lucy Letby is in prison. They'll never investigate this. They'll never do anything to do with it. They'll never make a comment on it. The only way this will be investigated would be when Lucy's been exonerated. Until such time, the police will never do anything. The inquest on the 5 babies has been suspended according to the Warrington coroner's website, so I can't comment on that. That's interesting, but we'll see more about that in the future. Do you think the parents of the children are now less convinced of Lucy's guilty verdict? So it's a good question. So I know if it were me, I would be questioning it. I know I would, because I know what I'm like. It takes a strong person to, they've been railroaded down a certain track, and now it's difficult, given all the emotional trauma they've been through, and given the fact they've processed Lucy's guilt, it's difficult for them to now do an about turn. And you got to remember that the police came to them as their friends. I said, and I'm not comparing them in the literal sense, but I don't know if you've seen Goodfellas. Right at the end of Goodfellas, very near the end, last 10 minutes, I think, there's a scene where the guy played by his character's Henry Hill. I forgot. Oh, Ray Liotta, isn't it? Meets the character played by Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro basically is going to bump him off and get rid of him. And Ray Liotta's character reflects that these people always seem to come to you. It's the people who come to you as your friends when you're at when you're at your weakest. And you have to remember that that's true of the families. The police have come to them as their friends when they're at their weakest. So they will have invested an enormous amount of trust in the police, and they don't have the inbuilt skepticism that I would have. So I think it's going to be very difficult for them to ever change their opinion. We'll have to wait and see. But if there's a really strong critical thinker in there, they may have serious questions and should have serious questions. Julie Wheeler asks, who would put themselves forward as an expert witness now? I think not many people, in all probability, but then if the payday is big enough and if they're retired, you never know. But it's going to be very difficult to get witnesses for the prosecution, certainly. There's a comment about this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire documentary. I wouldn't worry too much about Netflix coming down on one side or the other. They've made it clear it'll be balanced, and we hear from both sides, and that's what will happen. There's no way they're going to come down on the side of guilty, because they would be absolutely annihilated in this country. They're just not going to do that. They just won't. It's as simple as that. They know. I've used this phrase before. I use this phrase again from a Bob Dylan song, a great Bob Dylan song. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. They know which way the wind is blowing. They're not stupid. Far from it. They didn't build a multi-billion-dollar company for being stupid. They're very shrewd operators, and they're not going to come down strongly on the side of guilt. They're just not. They just won't. So all we'll have to wait and see is what the actual content is like, but they definitely won't come down on the side of guilt. So there's a comment that Evans could be seen as suddenly too ill to appear in court, like David Duckenfield. So what I will say is, as far as I understand it, if Dr. Evans is compos mentis, he has to go to the Court of Appeal. He will never appear in a retrial because no one would want him in a retrial. As far as I understand it, he has to go to the Court of Appeal. It would be also disastrous for the prosecution if they said, we're not going to have Dr. Evans in this process, and then naturally there would be the questions of why. Why aren't you calling Dr. Evans, who was central to the prosecution case? Because we think he's unreliable. It's possible they could try to make out that he's really ill and can't appear in the Court of Appeal. That seems doubtful. But their other main witness is Bohin, who's doesn't necessarily have a much better image. So they will face serious challenges at the Court of Appeal, that's for sure. Just bear with me a second. Don't know what evidence will be produced for a retrial, but there is still a huge amount of ignorance among the public and parts of the media about the actual facts of the case. So I mean, that's true, but I do think it's changing. So by the time of a retrial, it would become very difficult for them to get witnesses. But let's just cross that bridge when we come to it. The main thing is to firstly get to the Court of Appeal and then win at the Court of Appeal. That's what really matters. Anecdotally, I've noticed a big reduction in laugh reactors on Facebook to stories suggesting innocence. So that's just not. I mean, the public mood is massively changing. It's very clear. You can't get a much bigger barometer than the Sun front page. So, yeah, I think I'm very, very positive about the current situation. It's just a case of making it as big as we can now. What I've learned from this case is how much the public fawn over our justice system and don't critically think about it. Dam has burst now, though. So, I mean, broadly speaking, that is true. You don't get, we're not trained to think critically, and therefore the standard of critical thinking in the society is not always very good. So I'm not hugely surprised by that. And of course, again, we're conditioned, or at least very strongly encouraged, to have faith in the justice system. So I suppose the kind of general sentiment related to that is not altogether surprising to me. Some more comments about Susanna Reid. So I've probably said enough about her. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah. So the comment about Julia Hartley Brewer. I don't know her personally. I don't know what she usually does. I don't know what her take on things usually is. I don't know what she said in her interviewing. I know she's made some commentary that is quite poor. All I can say about people in the media is that once they've taken a certain position, they may not wish to back away from that. And there could be all kinds of reasons why they're saying what they say. Obviously, objectively, we know that this is an unsafe conviction, and it will become more and more clear, and it'll become harder and harder and harder for those speaking on this to maintain that position. Lucy Letby, biggest miscarriage of justice in the UK, and then talks about Luke Mitchell. So I must say, and I say this quite a few times, I'm completely focused on Lucy's case, and I don't know anything about any other miscarriage of justice, with the exception of those that have been proven, the Post Office inquiry, Malkinson, and also the Colin Campbell case I do know about because I've met some key figures in that case. So I can't comment on Luke Mitchell, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in the future as to regards to what I do, what my life is like. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'm sure I'm going to be doing some more stuff in the criminal justice space and in the healthcare space. So someone says, that's lovely, you're going to narrate your book. In a way, I would rather professional voiceover artists did it, but I was aware that there would be a kind of expectation that you would hear my voice. It's not now, I suppose it's not now a trivial number of people that have heard my voice and that are familiar with me, and I guess the number will be greater by then. We're getting close. We're way over 4,000. We're getting closer to 5,000 subscribers now, which is crazy. So we've raced. We're going to be at 250,000 watch hours next month, probably, or maybe even later this month, and we're getting close to 1 million views, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I never thought we'd get anywhere near that. I hoped I'd get a few hundred views here and there, and I'm really grateful. But obviously, because of that kind of online penetration, I said to the publisher, I think there may be an expectation that I narrate the book, and they said, yeah, you will be doing it. Basically, we did kind of float the idea of looking at an actor or a voiceover artist, but it didn't seem the right thing to do. So yeah, I've got to go to a recording studio and record it at some point. Let's go a bit further down. Can't wait for the book. Thank you. Which celebrity would you love to do your audiobook voice? I mean, the obvious name that comes to mind is Stephen Fry, because he's done a lot of them. I'm trying to think who else could have done it. I guess like a newsreader would be good, don't you think? As long as they don't turn out to have committed any major crimes, like one newsreader in particular. I think it'd have to be someone northern, though, wouldn't it? Don't you think? I know I don't have a strong accent at all, but I am northern originally, so I guess someone with a slight northern accent, maybe, or who could do a convincing one. I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that question, but I mean, Stephen Fry came to mind originally because he's probably done loads of audiobooks. It's probably shelling peas for him to go in there and do another one. Has Mark McDonald seen a preview of the Netflix documentary? It would very, very much surprise me if he hasn't, given that he's in the documentary. But obviously, I don't know 100%, but I imagine. Yeah. Let's go a bit further down. So Jenny's asking for a brief synopsis. So I'm sure other people have given this, but basically, a lot of it we've been talking about Netflix, about what will be in the Netflix documentary and so forth. I think that, just to summarize my view, I think this will be a net positive for Lucy, and I doubt there is much of substance that's going to count against her. And I also mentioned the fact that an international audience, where you are, Jenny, for example, have not been conditioned to hate Lucy and think she's the worst person in the world in the same way that happened in our country. So I think anything balanced, they're going to want more information, and I think it could be massive for Lucy, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it's a positive. So that's roughly what I've been speaking about for the first 50 minutes or so before you joined. Looks like another stitch-up coming around the inquest. Well, I certainly suspect that's possible, but let's wait and see what actually happens. It's not guaranteed, of course. But it's a possibility, of course. Definitely a possibility. So there's more comments about this Julia Hartley-Brewer character, who I don't really know anything about. So Ruth is saying November 2020. I think you're right. I'm pretty sure it was that month. I just didn't want to say in case I was wrong, but yeah, it was certainly late in 2020. So she's been there for about 5.25 years now, and been in prison, as I mentioned, for six Christmases now. I will be your PR agent if you go on Love Island. I think the other contestants would be thinking, this guy's not quite up to scratch in the looks department to be on Love Island. I've never had any Botox done. I haven't got any hair, or very, very little hair, as you probably noticed. I definitely need to get my teeth fixed. I've not been in the gym very much recently. I guess I'm okay looking, but whether I get on Love Island is doubtful. I think it's fair to say. But thank you. I really appreciate the offer. So more about Julia. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah, a bit more there. Yeah, so there's another question about perjury. So all I can say is Cheshire Police will never investigate this. So don't look for it, because it won't happen. They're never going to do it, because it will blow that. If they arrested him for perjury, and I'm not saying they should, but they should investigate, then it would just blow the whole narrative to pieces. So they're just not going to do that. They've made that very clear. Thank you for your brilliant videos. My pleasure. Thanks for being here. I'm a bit late to join tonight. You may have covered this already. The prosecution made a big deal of tricking the jury into believing Lucy lied about her pajamas in her arrest. Yeah, so we've discussed this. The documentary is already, just the trailer has already made this clear. So I think it was already farcical, but now people recognise it's just disgusting. At least I thought there was some truth in it originally, or obviously it's not true in any meaningful sense. It's but now we just know that it's just total rubbish. I thought perhaps there was kind of a bit of nitpicking over whether or not they were pajamas. Now we know they just manipulate the whole thing. It's just complete rubbish. So yeah, it's embarrassing. What can you say? That's going to backfire on the police and the prosecution, obviously, because people know this case inside out. So there you go. Yeah, as someone saying that Ravi hasn't been arrested, or I would say even meaningfully investigated for perjury, because that would undermine Operation Hummingbird, which I completely agree with. So someone's asking about, will there be a book launch? Would love to meet you to say thank you in person. So there will be a book launch. Now, I can't just invite anyone because potentially there could be thousands of people. What I'm going to be doing probably is other public events where it'll be possible to meet me. And it sounds really weird for me to say that, like, who want to meet me? But yeah, it'll be possible if you want to. And obviously I'll do signings and such like but we're still obviously working out the PR aspects of the book. But certainly it's my plan to do stuff like that. I should say as well, I'm still planning to have a picnic in London at Hyde Park in the summer of 2026, which will be around the time of the book launch. So I will mention this on YouTube at the time. I'll mention this in a post, and I'll give you a bit of time. And yeah, bring it. You'll have to bring a picnic blanket. You'll have to bring some food. We can take over Hyde Park. I did look at Speaker's Corner, but I thought I don't know if I want to do that. but we'll think about it. But yeah, I mean, it's still my intention to hold a little get together as well in the park. So I don't know how many people will turn up, but we'll see. And Kiko will be there. Probably my friend will be there. When is John Sweeney coming out with his latest podcast episode? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm really pleased to see that he is doing another podcast because the other ones are very good. Yeah, more comments here. Let's go a bit further down. One thing that always makes me mad is when I see pro-guilty people say the innocent side of men of a certain age. Well, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'll just say now. I mean, this may astound people, but I have actually been with an actual attractive three-dimensional woman before. I know that might surprise people, but I don't crumble every time I see a two-dimensional image of a pleasant-looking woman. That may stagger and amaze people, but that's actually true. So I just think these comments, obviously, they're just juvenile comments from juvenile people. They don't really require any response, but So some comment about x.com. I don't know, someone's had some issue, but yeah, these things happen, don't worry. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah, I agree with comments made by Woody about, I mean, CNOR says as well, they say that it's a reflection of themselves. That's what comes into mind. I think that's true, but I think also they're just looking for any smear tactics usually. And Woody rightly says, when in reality, sexism and misogyny is probably a large reason or a large part of where Lucy is now. And I do think it's an element. I think class is a bigger component. I think a lot of it is she is the person at the bottom, and she can be target. I don't believe she's deliberately targeted as we've discussed, but she is a useful scapegoat. And I think class is an enormous part of why the consultants are believed by the police so uncritically. So, and yeah, as someone is saying here, these are just ad hominem, silly things to say. Thank you, Chris, for keeping us informed. So appreciated. It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Speaking for myself, I'm furious about the babies and the poor parents of these babies. Yeah, it's tragic, absolutely tragic, horrendous for them. But it's also horrendous for Lucy's parents. It's horrendous for Lucy herself, obviously, and this is an injustice that needs to be corrected. So Jane says, you've got your dog for fun though. He's the best fun. I should just mention that Kiko is a she, but she is the best. She's a great dog. She's super intelligent. She's super energetic. She gives me a lot. She asks for a lot as well. I've got to be honest, but she does give me a lot, and she's amazing. Let's go a bit down. Shout out to Kiko. So Keeks is like very relaxed now. She's just doing a I'm happy, I'm laying here, I'm not bothered about anything, so she's fine. Hi to Reflective, good to see you here, and great, mate, you leave so many comments. People don't know that, or may not know that Reflective is a very well qualified person. And he leaves a lot of very interesting comments. It boils my blood that Cheshire Police will try and hide behind the feelings of the family. So the comment they made in response to the Crown Prosecution Service decision was, I mean, obviously I made a comment about it in my video, but it was so poor. Like, oh, we ask you to respect the family's privacy. We don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. How are we going to do anything else? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is they said, oh, we want you to respect the family's feelings. Well, you're the one that's upset them. We don't know who they are, and B, we have no intention of upsetting them. You're responsible for them being upset. It's just a ridiculous, embarrassing comment. So here's a good question. I'll try not to talk about this too much. I'm trying to get better at chess, but the knights always catch me out. Any tips, Chris? So everyone finds the knights difficult. The knights are the trickiest piece in chess because they jump around all over the place, and it's hard to visualize their moves. Nigel Short, who is arguably the greatest British chess player ever because he's the only British chess player to play a World Championship match, said that when he plays shorter time controls, he will favour taking the knights off the board because even he struggles. So you're not alone in that. There is no easy way to do it. One thing you could try doing is set up a position with just the knights and pawns and play against the computer. You can do that on Lichess. You can set the position up, just have all the pawns and the knights and your king, obviously, and then try to just practice with the knights a lot. That's one way of starting to learn bits and pieces. Another thing with knights is they're always stronger when they're supported by pawns. So if you can get your knight to a position where it's supported by pawns, then they're always stronger for you. That's just a little bit of a tip. But at the end of the day, it's difficult. Chess is really hard. So you'll never master it completely. It's impossible. You just have to keep practicing, keep trying. Another little tip. Let me just give you one last little tip, because I don't want to talk about chess for too long. But before you move, always ask yourself, where could my opponent go if I moved there? What could my opponent do next? And after your opponent moves, ask yourself, what is my opponent threatening to do next? So if you see a knight move, try to think, where could the knight go after this? But that's true for any piece. Just always think, after every move, just think, what could my opponent do in response to this? And after your opponent moves, what is my opponent threatening to do? Because that's something that inexperienced players don't do enough. So I agree with the comments on Lucy's parents. I'm really happy that they've got the chance to speak out. Will my book be on Amazon? Absolutely, definitely. It's the biggest platform. It'll definitely be on Amazon, but it'll be on all booksellers. It'll be in bookshops. It will be broadly available, widely available. and internationally as well. We want to do the best international campaign we can to make it available in other countries. There's going to be more of a need for that. That's a big positive of Netflix. Again, makes it more interesting from an international perspective. I want to try to make this more international. When it's possible, I'd like to do some American podcasts, in particular, maybe Australian, definitely Australian, because that's my second biggest audience. And just try to, if you add up all the little bits and pieces of America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, it's roughly 10% of my audience. So that's not trivial. So yeah, and actually, if you add up all the countries together outside of the UK, it's nearly 30%, incredibly, or it's certainly over 20%. So it's not other countries, and it's definitely not trivial in this process. And I'd want to try and make it as international as we can. With obviously, there's going to be a focus on Britain. That goes without saying. Do you think there's enough pressure that the CCRC will let it go to the COA, and does the COA have to agree? So the answer to that question is yes and yes. I do think there's enough pressure, and I do believe the CCRC and evidence, of course. It's not just pressure; there has to be the evidence, but there is both. Does the Court of Appeal have to agree? Absolutely, they've got no choice. Their job is merely to assess the case. Do you think the Bird will realise about the heist? Too good to be true. Experts. So I think they do realise now. I think already they are wary of Dr. Evans for sure. I think they already are for sure. Right. Sorry, I just need to take this user out. Just bear with me. I don't necessarily think this person. I don't know what their comments were, but I can't allow that type of comment because it's abusive. So I don't think they were necessarily pro-guilt person, but we can't allow. I don't mind a little bit of mild swearing, but we can't allow bad language and abusive stuff. So I just need to time that out. Sorry about that to that person. I don't think they necessarily meant any harm, but we can't. That's something we can't have. Has any case note review revealed a murder or created evidence for court criminal level standard? So I don't think. I mean, I think in the original case note review, as it's described by Dr. Evans, this is just my opinion based on what I've seen, but it barely meets the description of case note review. It'll be interesting to see what occurs going forward. I mean, this is all new territory for me, so we're just gonna have to wait and see what the court says. Let's get it in the Court of Appeal, and then we can go from there. Someone's talking about a podcast about another case, which is interesting. Anna, I don't know anything about it, so I won't comment. The CCRC on the back foot, says Malkinson. I agree, and I think that can make a difference. I'm near certain with the current level of public pressure, they will refer to the Court of Appeal. Likewise, I feel that the Court of Appeal will call a retrial. That's interesting. So I'm certain that there will be a referral to the Court of Appeal, absolutely certain. Can you imagine if they said, oh, we don't think there's enough evidence? There's just no way. That's just not going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Regarding the Court of Appeal, that's where we need to pile the pressure on as much as we can. So we all need to do whatever we can. And I agree with the comments here from Chariots of Wire that public weight is what counts. Now the Sun have run a front page in a poll. If those figures are positive, no doubt they will run with it. There's going to be more from them as well. I have no doubt. I really appreciate this channel, Chris. Thank you so much. This channel helps to keep this in all of our minds. No problem. Thank you for being here. I mean, I mentioned a little bit earlier, to have this level of support is amazing. So it's really a pleasure to do everything that I do. yes, sometimes I get a little bit tired, and I am a little bit tired today, but it's worth it. And I'm just really grateful. Evans could become really ill when this film comes out and the masses find out about his conduct. I don't sympathise. Um, I mean, I've heard a few murmurings that he's concerned, which you would expect, wouldn't you? Frankly, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens with him. Future big medical cases should send in multidisciplinary team real experts. Do you think this might happen now onwards? There's going to be a push for that for sure. This case can be the key that unlocks the door for a lot of important things. And one of them should be real experts, as you say, multidisciplinary teams. Not just multidisciplinary teams, but people that are employed, or at least partially employed, in giving expert evidence. Not just let's see who we can get. Oh, this guy's willing to do it. Right, we'll have him in the court case. It's obvious. It's obvious that is prone to error. That's the most generous thing you can possibly say. There's lots of other things you could say. So I hope that it will lead to a re-examination of the way that expert evidence is used and acquired in the first place. Yeah, so as you mentioned, House of Dragon mentions here about Dr. Evans has cited Shuli's paper. It's a massive problem. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that. Because the whole prosecution case is reliant on this paper. Of course, the Court of Appeal, the first time round, made some ridiculous comments, but it's going to be harder for them to do that this time. We'll just have to wait and see. We just have to wait and see what happens. If Dr. Evans' evidence is found to be dishonest or simply wrong, can the verdict be overturned? So, when the Court of Appeal examines this case, it will hinge on whether or not Dr. Evans was correct. They almost certainly won't say that he was dishonest. They will say there's sufficient doubt for us to overturn the verdict or to order a retrial or whatever they wish to do. That would be the primary reason the verdict would be overturned, yes. Did Bohin criticise Chester at all? Obviously, I'm reliant on what I've seen, which people will tell me is not the whole trial. So I must acknowledge this. But based on what I've seen, no. Quite the opposite. I mean, but to a great extent, Bohin endorsed Dr. Evans. I mean, she really didn't put a lot of her own original thoughts in the trial. They were singing from a very similar hymn sheet, that's for sure. So I don't think she significantly said things in court that that went against Dr. Evans. She did mention them a few things at certain times. I know there was something with regard to Child O, and I think there were a couple of others, but they just drifted away. So I don't think she said very much that would criticise care at the Council of Chester. So Stephanie T says, I believe one of the parents is taking a wider look. So that's interesting. That's she's not saying. I don't think Stephanie's saying I know that to be the case. I'm saying she's saying it's her belief that they would be doing that. As far as I know, if you know differently, Stephanie, please tell us. But it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible that someone will be looking at this by now. They'll try and bypass a retrial somehow and find a way to go straight to exoneration. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't like to make any predictions. I do, as I've said, and I will repeat this once again. I do think it will be difficult for them to have a retrial for numerous reasons. Difficult to put a prosecution case in a retrial. Let's go a bit further down. Do we know if CCRC has requested Evans' rehash report? I don't know for sure, but I know they were having problems getting hold of that. So it'll be interesting to see whether that happens. It seems to me that they will have to release this, whether they like it or not. So someone says, interesting, I used to think Lucy was guilty because I fell for the media narrative. People just need the facts. the confession note struck me as odd, so I looked into the case, and now I'm convinced she's innocent. So well done to Range Crowsoft. The note. I thought Lucy was guilty for half an hour until I started to think, well, I've not had any evidence for this, as I've recounted many times. And also the confession note was key for me as well. It's so funny because, we've got a confession note. So then I expected to see something from Lucy saying, I committed these murders, and and that was very significant for me, and it's been significant for a lot of people. So there's a question about where I'm from. So I've never really revealed this, but some people have guessed. So I won't say, but some people have guessed where I'm from. And you can mention it in the comments if you want. I don't really mind. But I try and keep a few things private, Most of the comments I see from Guilt is about the confession note. That's amazing. It's amazing that people are talking about that note. Incredible. It just has no merit whatsoever. It's just unbelievable. So Senor says, I hadn't noticed he's northern. So I've done quite a good job of flattening out my accent over the years. Plus, I haven't lived in a very northern location for quite a long time. So occasionally on some words, you can hear my original accent or the accent of the town where I come from. But it's not particularly noticeable. And I try to, I think, not that I made a really, really conscious effort, but as I became a writer and as I began interviewing people and as I started being interviewed for jobs, I did kind of make a little bit of a conscious effort to speak more correctly and speak more clearly as well. So hopefully that's been reflected in my accent and my speech, which I'm always quite glad that people can't necessarily easily recognize where I come from or are surprised when they're told. So yeah, but I am Northern originally, yes. And I still consider myself to be Northern. I just don't speak with a really strong Northern accent. Let's get a bit further down. So someone suggests James May. That's a pretty good call. Again, not very Northern. Can anyone suggest a Northern person who would have a bit of a Northern twang? Like John Virgo. What about John Virgo? That'd be good, wouldn't it? I think maybe not quite the right tone. Yeah, I can't give you. Oh, what about Christopher Eccleston? He'd be good. Anyway, this is completely hypothetical because it's going to be me. So you stuck with me. So forget about all these famous actors. It's not going to be any of them. So someone suggested Dowie to narrate the book. I bet he would do it for another cardigan or enough money. I mean, I don't know why he needs all this money because he doesn't spend it on anything. He will get to see what I've written anyway. Judith Morris has been quiet recently. Why? I think she's just decided to slope off quietly after the calamity of Panorama. There was a swarm of Lucy defenders on a Guilter site, and there was a palpable effect. That's really good. I didn't know that. But yeah, they're obviously swamped now in numbers, and I'm going to say that they're getting increasingly desperate, but they shouldn't be desperate. What they should do is reflect on the fact that they were wrong, and it's okay to be wrong about things. I will have been wrong about things on this channel, and I will be wrong about things in the future. And I've studied this case in great depth, and I know a lot about it. And I've spoken to a lot of experts now, and I've spoken to a lot of experts that you haven't seen on the channel in the background. There's a lot of people in this book that you haven't heard from yet, and there's a lot of people that I haven't in my email that are not even in the book. And I will still get things wrong, and even some of those experts will occasionally get things wrong. That's just part of life. That's part of being a human being. It's part of being a fallible Homo sapien. So obviously, when they made the decision early on that Lucy's guilty, they knew nothing about the case. They don't understand the case. They don't have any experience. They don't have any qualifications. Of course, they can be wrong. It's not a big admission to say, right, well, I'm wrong about this topic that I know nothing about and have no particular credentials in. But for some reason, people have this massive problem with saying that they're wrong. Now, I know that this could be leveled at me. Someone could say about me, well, you're invested in Lucy being innocent, or you're invested in this being a miscarriage. The difference is, I've got these 200. I mean, I've got in my email. I've got at least 150 doctors, and I've had several hundred nurses email me through Facebook and my email. Every single one of them believes it's a miscarriage of justice. I've repeatedly requested any expert, anyone with credentials or qualifications, to email me. It's lucy_letby_analysis@mail.com and indicate their belief that Lucy is guilty. I'm still waiting for the first person. If I did get one, it would be extraordinary, but they would still be outnumbered, hundreds or even maybe over 1,000 to 1 by all the people that have contacted me. So why anyone who believes in guilt can't, has to have this massive emotional investment and can't just say the very simple words, I was wrong. It's not that hard. You could say that. It's not hard for you to say that. There's no shame in it. None of you have any understanding. None of you have any qualifications. None of you have any credentials. None of you have interviewed anyone. It's fine to be wrong. Why you have to be desperate and behave in this juvenile fashion when you're just very obviously incorrect? I have no idea. It's very, very strange. An interesting study into human psychology, I would say. Let's go a little bit further down. I wonder if Lucy has seen or will see the documentary. I think it's very likely that she will see it. I can't say that with absolute confidence, but they are allowed certain. Would they be allowed Netflix though? Okay, I can't say if it was TV. I'm sure she would have seen the TV ones. Whether she gets to see this one, I don't know. I couldn't really comment. Actually, they might not get Netflix, or they might not have Netflix access, so maybe not. Oh, by the way, I had an idea. Yeah, I had this idea today while I was walking Kiko in the woods. By the way, if you're ever trying to engage in what they call, sometimes referred to as ideation, it's a good thing to do is to go into the woods if you can and walk around. And that's a really good place to come up with ideas. If you just think, lots of ideas will come to you. Like when I was writing novels, a lot of my ideas came to me in the woods when I was walking around. But I had this idea that if someone wanted to do this for me, that you could send transcripts of videos that I've recorded to Lucy in prison. I don't think they would be censored or suppressed. So if anyone would like to do that, it needs to be someone that has printing facilities. Then that would be really appreciated. I think that's just an idea I had. If people think it's a good idea, then let me know. I'm 26 minutes behind in the comments, so when I catch up, we'll assess this idea and then I'll work out what to do next. Will Paul Hughes write the preface? Write something? I think a more valid question will be: will Paul Hughes ever write anything that's coherent? Let's go a bit further down. There's more about Julie Hartley Brewer. I don't know much about. So Mike's making a comment about perjury. It's very hard to prove intent. I agree. I mean, I read about this. As much as you may think it looks bad, it is very difficult charge or case or thing to prove in court. The pajamas point is important because it was meant to be a big gotcha moment in court. It was just the prosecution lying. Yeah, absolutely agree. So Angela says, we love you, Chris. Thank you very much. I love you all too. When is the show coming out? 4th of February. And then Sodereen says, bound to be a book signing in Waterstone's Bath. It's a possibility. It's obviously not my place to make these decisions. I'll have input into it, but there's a possibility that would happen. Naturally, we'll let people know. Is it possible for supporters to communicate with Lucy to tell her we know she's innocent? Yes, you can write to her in prison. Lucy is receiving letters. If you watch the interview I did with Tom Hayes, who was exonerated recently by the Supreme Court, he wrote to Lucy trying to provide her with some encouragement. So we hope that she's received that. We know that she's receiving letters, so you can write to her in prison, but you have to make sure you follow the correct process. Someone in the chat who knows, I can never remember this. Can someone in the chat tell this person who is Kate J9786? Can you just tell her how you write this? You've got to write something like a prisoner number, and you've got to write your own address on somewhere. So could someone just write that in the chat, please? Surely after the book you'll be invited onto future Letby documentaries. Well, I think this is possible. We'll wait and see what happens. I think it's fairly clear I'm going to become a more public figure than I am now. Love to come, but I live in Devon. Well, that has its advantages and disadvantages. It is a long trek to London. It is a long trek to lots of places in Britain from Devon, but of course you live in Devon, so it's worth it, I would say. If you email me, it's Lucy_Letby_analysis@mail.com. It is not inconceivable that I will be in the Devon area at some point. And if you can connect with me, then I'm more than happy to meet you then. But I can't obviously guarantee that, but please do feel free to email me. Do you think a protest would be useful or counterproductive? Where would be best to hold it? I think a big protest eventually would be helpful. I've always been in favour of doing a big protest with speakers. I really don't have the time to arrange that, but I think that would be really helpful. Like the farmers' protest, maybe we're not with those amount of numbers, but something along those lines. The best place to hold it, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but is probably London, but maybe a more central location. Like, although some have been in the CCRC in Birmingham, so Birmingham could be a location as well. So Elch says, picnic too far away from me, you'll need to do a tour. I'm in Scotland. So my friend said you'll have to do a tour. And I'm like, how many? I'm going to be doing a lot of tours the way things have been planned out. If we feel there's enough of a reason to do that, then I'm happy to do something. Maybe in Edinburgh as possible. I'll be coming up to Scotland at some point, more than likely. This is all a bit crazy for me to talk about because I've never experienced this kind of support before, of course, or notoriety. So, yeah, I'm more than happy. I mean, there's a distinct possibility I might do public appearances in Scotland anyway. But if there are quite a few Scottish viewers and they'd like me to hold something in Scotland, yeah, of course I'll do that. I never really thought I'd do a tour of picnics across the country, but if I feel it's justified, and if you really want me to do it, then of course I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. Yeah, and let's go a bit further down. I'd say the etched into my memory based on the swipe card data shows his account of things was just not misremembering, but it would be very hard to prove. So perjury is incredibly difficult to prove. What you normally need, as far as I understand it, is we've got this email, but you need something like him saying, oh, let's just tell the police this. We know it's not true, but let's just, you'd need something really solid. So Reflective says, I think there'd be a great reception for Chris in Scotland. So that's really nice to hear. I hope I can do something in Scotland. I think it's very likely. Sarah in New Zealand says, all dogs are awesome. That's why we have 4. So I don't understand how people have 4 dogs. And like when I see people with multiple dogs, like Keeks keeps me busy on her own. Like I don't think I could. I mean, I've looked after 2, But 4 dogs. I mean, I take my hat off to you. But I mean, dogs are amazing. I mean, I love all animals. I love cats as well. I did have a cat when I was younger. I'm not. I wouldn't like. I guess I am a bit of a dog person, but I do like cats almost equally. It's just that I love Keeks and she's a dog. It's not so much that I'm a dog person. I'm just really a Kiko person, but I do love other dogs as well, of course. When pro-guilty people say have a care for the families, I want to scream because the families did not get justice. What about Lucy? Why is she not important? All I can say is that I agree with every word that you just said. It is very annoying. Yes, Chris, come to Scotland. Bit late for Burns Night and Haggis, but plenty of deep-fried Mars bars. So I have actually made a deep-fried Mars bar myself before. I did beer battered fish and chips for myself this evening. So I do that quite regularly, once a week. I'm allowed that. So yeah, I love my food. I'm up for trying. I've never tried haggis, but I'm up for it. I'm definitely up for deep fried Mars bars. Anything with chocolate, I'm up for. Don't worry. I can't imagine the police will take responsibility when Lucy's exonerated. Do you think the police will blame Dewi Evans, Berry, and J Ram? Let me just say this: the police they'll stab Dewi Evans in the back so quickly they'll get confused and stab him in the front by mistake. I don't know about Berry and J Ram; they have more protection, but Dewi Evans is very very vulnerable. So there's a comment about knights being difficult, very, very difficult to deal with. Very difficult part of chess, indeed. I watched someone on Twitch, incidentally, recently, and when I first saw her play, she was rated 100, which is incredibly low, and she just got to 1900, which is a little bit lower than me. But I've watched her climb just by playing every day. She doesn't have any openings. She's not studied. She just plays rapid games. She just climbed, and now she's 1900. So I was quite impressed by that because I definitely studied a bit, and it does help. The police will be so disappointed, much more than when Liverpool charges dropped. Yeah, I agree. I think this Netflix thing will be a real disappointment for them. Let's go a bit further down. What is your view about Nick Johnson's conduct as distinct from the CPS? I always find this difficult to answer because I understand why people feel a lot of antipathy towards Nick Johnson, and I feel that, and sometimes I get annoyed with him. But I think a lot of the problems with Nick Johnson are actually systemic problems that another barrister may have copied or duplicated if they were in court. I do think at times his attitude and his conduct was poor and definitely not conducive to finding out the truth. But that's not what the adversarial system does. It doesn't seek the truth, it seeks to prosecute. I disagree fundamentally with the adversarial system. It just isn't the best way in a complex case to establish the truth. It just isn't. There's another thing. I spoke to some friends about this the other day. There's another court case that I've examined, and I found out some very interesting things from examining this court case. Now, I'm not able to talk about this on camera yet, and I don't know when I will. But I learned some. It was interesting to look at a case in which the defendant is definitely guilty, but there are still problems with the process. That was really informative for me, and really, it's rather illustrative. But I can't talk about that case at the moment. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it at some point in the future. I don't know when. It'll have to be some time significantly into the future. So many keep on about Lucy being found guilty in a court of law. What's a great reply to that comment? So I mentioned earlier, all I would really say is, of course, Lucy was found guilty in a court of law. She wouldn't be in prison if she hadn't been in a court of law. There's always a court of law in every miscarriage of justice. There was a court of law with the Birmingham Six. There was a court of law with the Guildford Four. There was a court of law with the Post Office Inquiry. There was a court of law with Andrew Malkinson. There was a court of law with Peter Sullivan. There's always a court of law. There's always a court of law. There's always a court case. There's always barristers. There's always a jury. There's always a judge. Every single time. That applies to every innocent person that's been in prison, and it will apply to every innocent person that's in prison now, and it will apply to every innocent person that is ever in prison. So the fact that a court of law assess the case, all that is human beings going through a process. The jury is just fallible human beings. They can get it wrong. It's as simple as that. It's not as if there's no historical precedent for juries and courts getting things wrong. There is an enormous historical precedent. So the fact that it was in a court of law, that's not some infallible argument. It's not like if you measure a litre of water and say that's definitely a litre. A court of law is absolutely prone to human error. It's absolutely prone to flawed arguments, and we know this. Frankly, saying that there was a court of law, it just means nothing. That's what I would say. Let's just go a bit further down. So it's an interesting comment that I simply say there hasn't been a trial because the evidence presented wasn't tested nor scrutinised properly. An interesting comment. I suppose there has been a trial because there was a court case. I suppose what you could say is that there wasn't an adequate trial, but I see your point. You say that all we've heard is supposition, emotion, and storytelling. Sadly, that is a big part of court cases because of the adversarial system, and it's very obvious to me that needs to change. So Lucy says, finally caught alive, live in Sydney, Australia. So it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us from Australia. Hope you're well. It's great for you to be in attendance. Hey Chris, I've mentioned it before, but you need to put links for updates and pre-ordering your book on the description page for the channel. Yeah, you're right. I will be doing that more, as we go along. I've been really busy, and it's not like it's been printed yet, or it's not even that close. It will be printed obviously quite soon. So I will be getting more professional with how I put links out and so forth in the foreseeable future. It's just that I've been juggling so many balls that I've failed to juggle them all correctly. But you're absolutely correct in your comments. Let's go a bit further down. So Matthew says, can Matt, Lynn, or Maltin help, as you know, Mark, for the PR for your book, Chris? So I have met someone from that company, but the PR for my book is being handled by a different company that the publisher knows already. So when I mentioned earlier talking about PR, yeah, if you want to criticize me for having a PR company help me when I'm going into the mainstream media, I'm already starting to be asked for things now, 5 months before the book is released, potentially 4 to 5 months, and I've never done this before. You just need a PR. If you're doing something big and something important, you need PR. And it's not so much that they promote you. You apart from anything else, you just simply need them as an intermediary. You just do. Anyone that's done anything successful in life will know that. And it would be utterly stupid for me to do anything else. I know I'll just handle everything on my own, and I'll deal with all the media and all the appointments and all the things I'm doing. And I'll run the entire campaign, and I'll run everything myself, and I'll write the book, and I'll do YouTube, and I'll do the interviews, and I'll do completely unrealistic, utterly ridiculous to even attempt to criticize someone for that. Anyone that does that, anyone that criticizes someone for that, all they're basically saying is, I am an idiot. So there's nothing else I can say about that. I was convinced by the expert testimony and assertion that Lucy was the common factor in all deaths. Once I learned about the statistical BS and that Evans is a fraud, I changed my mind. So I'm really glad that you've come round to our way of thinking, Kate. Obviously, you're correct in your thoughts. So appreciate that comment. I think whilst it will be incredibly difficult for Lucy, the best outcome would be Court of Appeal strike out conviction, CPS go for retrial, Lucy on bail pending, and the CPS get blown apart at a hearing. So there's two things to say about this. There's two ways of looking at this. On the one hand, it's going to be very hard to put a prosecution case in court. And then additionally, you're dragging a load of people through a traumatic experience. On the other hand, there is a real public need for this to be heard in court and for it to be overturned in court and for Lucy to be properly exonerated. So those are two sides of the seesaw that are in very delicate state of flux and balance. And I don't know what will happen. I don't know which side to even come down on. In a way, I would love to have a retrial because then it would be the chance for Lucy to have her hard side of the case heard in court day after day after day, and for it to be in the news media day after day after day. On the other hand, I'd like her to be exonerated as soon as possible without having to go through that. So it's a difficult one. I really don't know what's going to happen. I really can't say. So there's a comment about antidepressants affecting Lucy's memory, and I think that's inevitable. Hi to Thomas. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So we're in the last 35 minutes, so I'm going to look for more questions. If there is a retrial, would Nick Johnson be the prosecutor again? Judge Goss, of course, now retired. I don't think it's inevitable. Well, it's definitely not inevitable because he could die, for example. But I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. But he could be already. I don't think it's necessarily the case because he could, for example, be already committed to something else, and he is, after all, just a performer. Essentially, he's just someone who delivers a case. He didn't even deliver the whole prosecution case. Some of it was delivered by Martin Driver. So I don't think it's inevitable, but it seems quite likely, but I don't think it's inevitable, no. What will happen with the inquests? No one knows. It's very difficult to say. Stephanie has given me a bit of a steer on this, but I will get Stephanie on relatively soon to discuss this, and she will give us a view on the coronial process. You sound like my friend from Huddersfield, maybe Simon Armitage. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, I'll be. It's going to be me anyway, but yeah, that's actually a very good suggestion. I like that. So someone's asked, "What is this for?" But I assume that's been answered. Let's look for more questions. Ant or Deck to do the audiobook. No, that's not going to happen. Too expensive, and I wouldn't say that. I don't dislike them. They're nice. They're nice kids, aren't they? Their story humor's like kids, but obviously they're about 50. But yeah, I'm not like a fan of theirs particularly. It's almost impossible for there to be a retrial at this point. What would the case against her be? Writing thoughts on a piece of paper, give me a break. I mean, that is a massive problem, of course, with the supposed retrial. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. I really can't make any predictions about this. Professor Brian Cox, an Northerner to read the audiobook? Yeah, possible. I think Professor Brian Cox, isn't he a BBC regular? I can't see him doing it. Anyway, I will be doing it. Let me just remind you of that once more. Will you do Waterstones where I work? I can't say because I don't know where you work. I'll make a great display. If you email me, Matthew, it's lucy_letby_analysis@mail.com. We'll definitely take that into consideration, and you would definitely be high on the list of possibilities. So please do email me, and I'll be happy to give that due consideration. Let's go a bit further down. So, sorry I'm late to the party. How are we feeling about Netflix? I'm really nervous. So, that's from David. Hi, David. I actually don't feel nervous. I think it's going to be positive for Lucy. I don't think there's anything of substance in there. I'm not really concerned about this. I think we're going to have a net positive. I also know a few things that I can't divulge at this point in time. So let's just see what happens over the next few days, because I know that's a bit of a tease, but you'll find out soon enough. Who do you view as the main contingent Lucy Letby guilters now? The press guilters the most extraordinary. Liz, Caroline, and a third person whose name I don't mention. So the third person doesn't believe a word that he says, firstly. I don't care because I know they're wrong. I just don't care about them. That's all I want to say. I just don't care about them. They're irrelevant to me. I just concentrate on doing my work. I know I'm right. I know I've done way better work than any of them. There's no comparison, is there? And I know I've worked much harder on it. And I know I've spoken to a lot more people. And I know I've got a lot more support. I mean, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I may have one or two critics. None of those critics have any qualifications, none of them have any credentials, none of them have any experience. And then I've got a lot of support, including from hundreds of credentialed people. If it was the other way around, if I had hundreds of credentialed people criticizing me and one or two people praising me who have no qualifications or credentials and haven't interviewed anyone, I would be concerned. In the current situation, I'm pretty comfortable, I've got to say. Can we add messages of support to her? Would that be allowed? I'm not sure where you're referring to, Kate, but if you're able to write to Lucy in prison, you're able to do that. If you could just clarify this, then I'll talk about this later on. It's funny as an Aussie how different the accents are in such a small space there. Like I sound the same as someone who lives 5,000 kilometers away here, but none of my friends from the UK sound the same. Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit strange for a British person to be in these enormous countries. Like I went to Canada recently, and like Canada's like just over half the population of Britain, but it's absolutely enormous. It's mental. Are there different accents in Australia? I never really thought about that. They do sound rather similar to an English ear. Like I can hear the difference between accents in Ireland, for example. Obviously, there's quite different American accents. Are there different? I never really thought about it. Are there different Australian accents? I didn't know if there were or not. But now you come to mention it, they do sound quite similar. I think. I mean, there's. I don't know why there is such a diversity of dialogues, dialects, and accents in Britain. That's obviously something to do with the number of. Something to do with maybe invasions and stuff. I don't know. I really don't have a good answer to why that is. I'm not massively knowledgeable about, ancient history of Britain. But yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard the Cornish accent, for example. Now that it is so distinct from even as you rightly say, places that are not that far away from Cornwall. It is strange. It is strange. I mean, that's a really interesting point. But yeah, we do have a lot of accents. That's why. So Anna Doherty, who's been on the channel, who interviewed Stephanie Davies recently, she told me that people don't like listening to it. Sometimes people complain about her accent. So obviously she's got an Italian accent, and I was really surprised by that because she does have it sounds to an English ear a fairly strong accent, but she's very, very eloquent and speaks with great fluency and articulacy. So I can't see how it's any different to have an accent from Birmingham or Liverpool. But people can be strange, can't they? I find her really easy to understand, but and really nice to listen to. But each their own. Is there any possibility that a PM or HS could at any time order the release of Lucy so that CPS, police, and NHS failing are not dragged through the courts? I think that Lucy's only going to be exonerated through the courts. However, I have had an idea that may help, but I don't think, unfortunately, she's going to be exonerated any other way. How do we get Lucy's address? So people have written the address beneath here. It's HMP Bronzefield. Can Lucy write back to people who write to her if she wants to? She can, but she's not doing that. Nice. If you come to Edinburgh, I'll turn up. Thank you. We'll see. Yeah. So someone's mentioned Edinburgh Book Festival. So there's a distinct possibility that I would appear at the Edinburgh Book Festival. Someone's mentioned the Edinburgh Fringe. So that's interesting, but I'd have to put a show together. Unless my show is just me reading from the book and then asking for questions. But that's actually a really interesting idea. When is the Edinburgh Fringe? Let's have a look. August, same time as the Edinburgh. Yeah, well, that's an interesting idea. I'll think about that. That is actually quite an interesting idea. I don't know whether it would be appropriate or not, because it seems like there's always a big emphasis on comedy, is there not? But yeah, I'll write it down anyway. And then I've got it written down, and then I can discuss it. But interesting idea. But yeah, the Edinburgh Literary Festival is, or book festival, is a possibility for sure. I do actually have friends in Edinburgh as well, so in that respect, it would be an actual choice. But we'll just have to wait and see. Dr. Phil Hammond talked about Lucy being innocent in the Fringe when I was up a couple of years ago. I've got to tell you as well, like, you do realise I'm not like a professional performer who's used to being on stage or has any ability to be on stage. So you're starting to push me to slightly out of my comfort zone, but I will give it some consideration, some due consideration. If we feel I can put something together that is tasteful, that is appropriate, then I'm happy to give it a go. But you know, it's a tricky one because maybe the venue isn't quite right. But we'll see. But if you say Phil Hammond's done it, then maybe it bears consideration. But I'll just have to wait and see. Let's go a bit further down. Whoever fancies some haggis, come to my place. I've filled the fridge with it. I'm up for it, mate. I'm up for it all day long. I'm not squeamish about food. I'll try anything. I love trying local cuisine all over the world. So I'll definitely try. I mean, I haven't actually ironically tried haggis, but yeah, I'll try haggis by all means. Actually, I don't know if I can. I'm saying I'll try it, but isn't it made out of part of a sheep? So I don't eat meat. So I'm not a proper vegetarian. I eat fish, but I don't know if I could eat haggis for that reason. But I'll eat a deep fried Mars bar by all means. I'd love to try all the Scottish dishes that I can eat as someone who doesn't eat meat. Which is due to Kiko. I used to eat meat, and I actually at one time I could never see myself stopping, but it reached a point where I thought it's hypocritical. I mean, I love my dog. I can't eat mammals. It's just not right. So I decided, you know, I thought it's too much to give up fish, and it could be bad for your health because you obviously can eat a very, very healthy vegan diet. I know that, but it requires discipline to get your nutritional balance. And I wouldn't want to be vegan at the moment because sometimes I just have to grab something quickly. And so I don't actually eat meat anyway. Should Lucy Letby freeze her eggs? Are you allowed to do that in prison? I don't know this. Let's ask a question about this. I doubt you can. I very much doubt you can, but let's see. You may be able to. No, you're generally not allowed. If she gets out before 40, that will be the biggest victory in British legal history. I would tend to agree. She had a lot stacked against her, and we've achieved an enormous amount to get to this point. And I want to be clear, you've all contributed to that process. It's all these little things, all these little trivial things that don't seem to be important. They are important. They're very important. Let's go a bit further down. So someone's saying I should call my picnic cake with Chris. I don't know about that. I do bake cakes. I do like to bake cakes. I bake chocolate cakes and bake Victoria sandwich cakes. But I don't know if I'd be able to take one because it's a bit... Lugging a whole cake around in a cake tin is in London. I can't really see myself doing that. I might try baking something that could be more easily transported. Like I might bake some chocolate chip cookies or brownies or something. Maybe. We'll see. They're going to melt, though. It'll be the middle of summer is the problem. But we'll see. We'll see. I could do it. I could bring a cool box or something, couldn't I? Anyway, we'll think about that nearer the time. It's not terribly important. Your book cover, do you have the final design yet? It's funny you should ask that question, my friend, because the designer sent me a load of designs over the last few days, and we've actually been working on finalizing the design today. I don't think I'm going to reveal any details at this point in time, but as soon as I can show you it, I will. I think I will tell you that we were strongly advised by some very credible people that Lucy's image should feature on the cover. So we naturally took that. I mean, someone in the comment section here said, if you don't have Lucy's image on the cover, then you're stupid. And he was probably absolutely right. So even though it was our original intention not to have that on the cover, Lucy's image will very, very likely be on the cover. So we're kind of finalizing the design. We've tried to do something, a bit more interesting than has been done previously. And I've shown the image to about 4 or 5 really trusted friends, and they've all really liked it. So I'm happy with what we've done. We've done the best thing we possibly can, but it's just literally making it recognizable to someone who sees it. And and you have to, I was always aware that the best design probably would be one with Lucy's image, and I tried to find a way not to do that. But yeah, hopefully you'll like the final design when you see it. We tried our best to do something interesting, so I hope you like it. Is it hopeful to think the public pressure will have any effect on the Court of Appeal? I believe this is essential. I think public pressure is enormously important. So everything that you're doing is very important in this process. Please keep doing it. It's making a difference for Lucy. Without public pressure, she's got no chance. So please just keep it going. I would say that Lucy will need to be carefully handled on release, like avoid public exposure, or at least keep it to a minimum. I agree, Peter. She's obviously going to go through a lot. She may never wish to appear in public. She may never wish to say anything about her experience. That is perfectly possible. We'll just have to wait and see. Hi, Chris. Any views on Dr. Gibbs becoming a priest? Well, obviously that's his personal choice. I hope that he is doing some soul searching at the moment, because he certainly should be. That's all I can really say. I can imagine them putting Lucy against Johnson because the PTSD will have been triggered, been made worse and will be triggered. Possible, but it's not inevitable, because it depends on whether he's available apart from anything else. But it's certainly possible that he would be there. Without your knowledge and passion, we've been none the wiser regarding this absolute mess. Thank you. It's got me hooked and frustrated that she's in prison. Simply unbelievable. Thank you, Rob. And obviously, I made this point before. If I don't have support, then, we achieve very little. It's only because of your support that we've got to where we are today. The channel's got to where it is today, and I suppose that I have got to where I am today. That you've been enormously helpful in that, so I'm really grateful. Why do trolls keep being adamant online in video comments? Are they police officers? Do they really believe what they're writing? I did a video about this some time ago. I do think people sometimes have a need to believe that they're correct about something. And that's probably amplified in this situation, given that obviously we believe Lucy is innocent, and we certainly believe it's a miscarriage of justice. So therefore, it's horrendous. So some of these people, although they may seem otherwise, they might not all be bad people, and they may be kind of regret. Imagine the regret for them if they think, oh my God, I said all this stuff about this woman, and really she's innocent. She's been through a horrible experience. So that could be difficult for them to process. So they all, the Jolly Contrarian made this comment about one of them, and he said, I've realized you're not trying to convince me or anyone else. You're trying to convince yourself that you're right. And I think that was a very intuitive remark, for sure. So I think there are numerous reasons. I think that's one reason. I think people, when they take a public position, don't like admitting they're wrong. I think people, broadly speaking, don't like admitting they're wrong. And some of them probably, do believe they're right. Incredibly, extraordinary. But when there's an emotional component, it can be very difficult to extricate yourself from the emotion that you associate with the original opinion. So these are all possible reasons why people are so adamant. But I think the main one is just simply people are very bad at admitting they're wrong. And when you've taken a public position in something, then it can be very difficult to retract that public position, I would say. Cornish accent is Celtic, someone is saying, which is interesting. So someone says there's a smaller difference in Australia as the accent hasn't had time to diverge, which is a good point. I think it's because Britain was historically very localised. Most people didn't move away from the areas where they grew up, and if they did, it was to the nearest city. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But when Australia was formed, it's not like they had loads of transportation. So I think you're right. There has always been this localised aspect to British culture, but it's still interesting. Anna says, kind of different, but it's mostly a class difference, like bogan and posh. We have a slight difference in states with the name of things, but we mostly sound the same. I'm definitely on the bogan side. I'm sure that's not true, Anna. I'm sure that's not true. Bogan is like if people don't know that word, it's a kind of slang term for lower class Australians. I can't believe that Anna is anything other than very distinguished. The Fringe isn't just comedy these days, someone says. Okay, so that's interesting. Veggie haggis is yummy. Okay. Well, I'm more than willing to try vegetarian haggis. More than willing. If someone says you can have, Simone saying you can have vegetarian haggis. Right, I want to try vegetarian haggis. I demand to receive some vegetarian haggis, in fact. So yeah, I really want to try that. What do you eat with haggis? Is it like, do you eat like potatoes with it, or is it vegetables, or what's the or do you just have haggis on its own? How is haggis traditionally served, I wonder? Are parents away from media because they are silenced, or is it for their protection? I think there's a variety of reasons. I think it's partly for their protection. I think it's partly because they don't want publicity. I think it's partly because they're traumatized. I think there's a variety of reasons why the parents have been away from the media. And the media know if they approach them, they have to do it very delicately. And also, I think it's difficult for media to make contact with the parents because no one knows who they are. That's why it's so ironic that Cheshire Police said, respect their privacy. Well, we don't know who they are. What are we going to do? Like, go around, knock on every single door in the country and ask them if they're the parents of, like, what a stupid statement. Chris, you're on a worldwide stage, just you can't see your audience, so when you can get a veggie haggis. Yeah, of course, I'm aware of the I mean, I see the list of countries of people. I mean, it's amazing when someone says, I listened to your podcast in Alaska last night and stuff like that. It's kind of mind-blowing. Neeps and tatties with veggie haggis. So tatties must be like, no, are they like, is it like, like sliced potatoes, boiled potatoes? I need to be educated, and I definitely need to be educated what neeps are, because I don't know what neeps are at all. So, but yeah, I'd love to. I absolutely, definitely, if I stay in Scotland, I want to try haggis. I've had deep fried Mars bar before, but I'm more than willing to have another one. And any other Scottish delicacies, obviously I've had like shortbread. I'm not keen on, I'm not a big drinker, full stop, but whiskey is just not for me, I'm afraid. But I will try, food-wise, I'll try anything. So I kind of answered the question about the parents already. I think a lot of it is for protection. Yeah, so someone's saying about me spamming comments into the internet is helping get an innocent person exonerated is just terrifying. Justice shouldn't depend on whether random strangers give a you-know-what about you. You're correct, Kate. You're absolutely correct in what you're saying, but unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that if Lucy didn't have a big public campaign and didn't have a big public following, and there wasn't a lot of public pressure, she would stay in prison. She'd stay in prison for the rest of her life. That's all there is to it. As it is, she will be exonerated. It's just a case of when. It's not an if at all. It's a when. So we need to make that happen as quickly as possible. But absolutely, what you're doing is important, very important. Bear in mind as well that, as I said before, I still haven't asked Lucy, but I must ask her at some point. But she was the person who does Trials of Lucy Letby Twitter, Lucy de Oliveira, who referred the case to Rachel Aviv at New Yorker. New Yorker article is critically important. I assume, as Lucy has been active on social media, that she saw, and there was nothing in the mainstream press. I assume that she saw people posting on social media. So it really has been enormously important. And also bear in mind that previous miscarriage of justice that took longer to resolve, an obvious example being the Birmingham Six, took 16 years. For the first 13 years, nothing happened, and then it was finally, there was a book, and then it was on TV. So they didn't have social media. So social media has massively accelerated awareness, and it is necessary, and it is important. And your comments are very astute and I think undeniably correct. But unfortunately, this is just a reality. So someone has said to me, I read they edited a mugshot. Is there any truth to that? Does anyone know? Now, I believe that they did, but I spoke to someone personally the other day who knows a lot about these things, and he thinks it's possible that they did not do that. But I can't really comment on that. I'm way behind, but the prosecution may not have known about the other films. It's their responsibility to know at the end of the day. They're accountable. Yeah, I agree. We don't really know everything about that, but more is going to come out about Pajamagate. People are using the phrase Pajamagate now, so let's, you can popular. I mean, it didn't require an enormous amount of imagination on my behalf, but please do use the term Pajamagate if you wish. I'm glad you're getting and taking support for the book. Even just the cover is important. So obviously, I've discussed the cover. I need support, and everything will be done to make sure that this can be successful. So, yeah. What do you think about using an image of her in her pajamas? Yeah, that's a really fascinating concept. One of the things I will say is that getting clearance for images for the cover of a book is not easy. Let me just say that. But I'll tell you more about this in future. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah, so I don't want to comment about trolls, or I don't consider them worthy of comment. I've obviously said a bit, but I don't comment about individuals. It's just not worth it. I don't consider it worthwhile usage of my time. They're perfectly entitled to say whatever they want about me. I don't care. So Jenny's saying the cover of the book should be Lucy saying goodbye to her cats. That would be, that'd be great. As I've mentioned, there's a problem with getting clearance for that. There's a problem with getting the image quality required. So unfortunately, you can't just use any image. We'll do the best that we can to make the best cover we can, and I'm pleased with what we've done. I didn't do anything, but yeah, I can't wait to share it with you. I'm sure you'll like it. I mean, I showed it to friends of mine that have not been centrally involved in Lucy's case, but obviously know what I'm doing, and they really liked it. And I showed it to other people that have been involved in the campaign, and they really liked it as well. So I've only had positive feedback so far, so I'm really happy with that, and I'm looking forward to you guys seeing it as well. The number of trolls has gone down. It's just because they're dwarfed, immersed at this point. Did you see the Good Morning Britain episode today on Lucy Letby and her parent statement? Yes, I did. It's very encouraging. I'm glad that her parents have been able to speak out. Things are definitely accelerating in terms of momentum. What do you think about the arrested hospital bosses? So you'll never hear about that again. There's no prospect whatsoever they'll be charged. It will be absolutely farcical. They can't possibly charge them with anything. If they put that in, the Crown Prosecution Service would just laugh it out of their organisation. You'll just never hear about that ever again, is my prediction. If I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up, but it will never go to court. I could defend them in court, never mind a barrister. Further down, it's another question on Good Morning Britain. You have to have haggis with whiskey sauce, apparently. So I'm not keen on whiskey. What does whiskey sauce taste like? Can't you have gravy or something? I like to do things the traditional way, but I really don't like whiskey that much. Can you not have whiskey sauce and mashed potato? I thought it'd be mashed potato. What are neeps? Has anyone told me what neeps are yet? Hopefully someone will answer that soon. I'd like to try it with gravy because if I have pie and mash, if I was in a London pie and mash store, I don't have that. I need to see that green stuff. I would have gravy all day long. Like I love gravy. So I would. I tend to have onion gravy. I'm not supposed to have the other gravies, but I'm not super strict on that. But I love gravy, so I would like to have gravy. But I'll try whiskey sauce. Maybe we'll see. I hope one day you'll have Lucy on your podcast as a guest. I mean, that's unpredictable. Lucy may not wish that type of publicity, but we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, the main thing is to get her out and then see what happens after that. Do you like shepherd's pie and cottage pie? Yes, I do. I like most things. I just like eating. But yeah, I do love shepherd's pie and cottage pie. I like to make that. I like to make like vegan or vegetarian shepherd's pie for myself. I'm not a drinker, but whiskey sauce is actually nice. I tried haggis 2 years ago. Okay. Whiskey sauce is teetotal suitable. You flambe off the alcohol, so no alcohol in it. Oh, interesting. Well, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. I still like the idea of having it with gravy, but I'll see what is available. Let's go a bit further down. I nearly caught you up now. Okay, now legal question to ponder for Chris and the channel. The CPS said previously they would fight any appeal. They now say they cannot bring new charges as there is no evidence. Our view of the collapses or deaths, the new allegations they now rejected are qualitatively identical to the one she was wrongly convicted on. So I agree with your comments, Thomas. I think I agree with you that the new cases are probably likely to be very similar to the original case. And the fact that the CPS has rejected them is significant. There can be several reasons for this. I think the first one, obviously, is they know they're going to face multiple experts and it's going to be very difficult. The second reason would be they've actually seen what these experts have said and they've said, well, all these professors, this is a big deal. We don't want to send this one to court because we know now this is similar type of stuff and it may be very, very shaky. Which one of those applies, I don't know. It's also significant that the CPS have sent it up to this national body rather than this local office that occurred with the original case. It rather begs the question of why they didn't do that in the original case. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I think your comments are undeniably correct. Let's go a bit further down. So we're nearly done. Nearly caught you up. Gravy's okay, though not traditional. Okay. So I'll see what they do. I like to have like pie and chips and gravy, for example. So I'd like to have gravy on anything that's got potatoes, pretty much. I guess that is a northern thing. Neeps are turnips, right? Swedish turnips. There you go. So that's pretty obvious, really. But yeah, it sounds really good. I love this kind of stuff. Yeah, so Jenny's mentioning American food. So if I'm in America, I forget which part of America you live in. I know you told me, but if I'm ever there, I'll definitely, the thing is, if you're in America, you can be 5,000 miles away. But if I'm ever anywhere near where you live, or if, obviously, it goes without saying, if you're in Britain, send me a message and I'll show you a few delicacies and a few sites in Britain. But yeah, I love American food. I just love food, really. I love all food, every country you go to. So I definitely would love to try some stuff over there for sure. Arguably, you would. I'm doing what the civil inquiry should have done. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that they've got all these documents and they've done nothing with them. It's mind-boggling. mind-boggling. What's your thoughts on Liz Truss? I don't know if this is like Liz Hull or Liz Truss you're referring to. So I'm not really sure, but like you can clarify and I'll answer that question. Chris is the real third. Well, I guess he doesn't knit well. That's a very astute observation, Jenny. My knitting is not of an impressive standard. I don't think you'd want me to knit a jumper for you or a sweater, as you prefer to describe it. I can remember doing knitting at primary school, and I think the teacher spent more time unpicking what I'd done wrong than they had them anything else. So it wasn't very good. So someone's asked for the proposed title of my book. So bear with me 1 second, I'll find that. Sorry about this. Yeah, I was just reading my own publisher page there because I read it. But yeah, the title is Reasonable Doubt: Examining the Case of Lucy Letby, and you can sign up for updates there. I didn't realise that they put on the page that they're going to release some updates in February, so I didn't actually know that. But so that's exciting, obviously. But I've obviously told you that we're looking at the cover, so hopefully you get to see that soon. Canadian national dish, a real delicacy, French fries covered in melted cheese curds and gravy. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I mean, I love melted cheese on chips or French fries. So I would probably really enjoy it. Well, I would. I don't know why I'm saying I probably would. I would definitely enjoy it. Chris, do you ever sleep? Your dedication to pursuing the truth from every direction is phenomenal, and your stamina, you leave no stone unturned. Please look after yourself too. Thank you for the comment. Yeah, I just have you ever seen that guy, David Goggins? So I'm not like him, obviously. I think you can tell I'm quite different from him, but I don't relate to him in terms of what he does, because I would not want to go on these ultra marathons and stuff. It would be awful. But I understand his message of like, push yourself and you never know what you're capable of doing. And I do look after my health, and I do get balanced, and I do sleep, and I do make sure, that there is that I don't burn myself out or do anything that would damage me in any way. But I'm just very driven. I very care about this a lot. It's very obvious. I've said this probably numerous times. It's very obvious this will be the most important thing I do in my life. So I want to do it right. And if that means I have to make some sacrifices, then that's not a problem. So I'm getting down to the last couple of questions now. Did Shu Lee have access to full medical records? Yes, absolutely. They had the same access as anyone involved in the case, and they tried to get extra records that Evans never looked at, and they're still trying to get them. Did you like the Shawshank Redemption and the Green Mile? I think everyone likes the Shawshank Redemption. Like, I can't imagine someone watching the Shawshank Redemption saying this is a bad film. Exceptional writing, exceptional screenplay, a brilliant film. I wasn't as keen on the Green Mile. I thought it dragged on a bit, but it was decent. It's better than most films. So I did like it a bit, but I think it suffered in comparison with the Shawshank Redemption. Do you think Victoria Derbyshire will have you on Newsnight for launch of book? No joke, suggest to your PR team. Probably not, but I hope to get on the BBC. There is one particular platform on the BBC that I would like to do. Whether I would be able to get on BBC television, I don't know. They've obviously been very unenthusiastic about covering the miscarriage of justice angle. So I don't know. I can't say, but I doubt I'd be on Newsnight very much. But we'll see. We'll wait and see what happens. That's not my department. And that's it. So we're right at the bottom of the comments. Someone's mentioned stovies or stovies, bigger favourite Scottish dish. And then Lucy Letby was used as a scapegoat for NHS incompetence. So I'm not bad at doing this, getting it into 3 hours. I didn't think I was going to make it today. I didn't think I was going to make it for 3 hours because I was quite tired, but I got my second wind. I got my second wind at about 10 o'clock, so it's fine. So yeah, I'm good now. I'm going to have a bite to eat before bed. Thank you all for joining me. Thanks for all the support. Channel's been peaking. There's been a real spike recently. It's that's all thanks to you guys. So thank you for being there, and thank you for your support. It's really important we get behind on the 5th of February, I'm going to put a video out on the Netflix documentary at 10 a.m. as I always do. It's really important that you get behind that as much as you can and support it, like it, comment on it, share it, amplify it, and make it as big as we can. And yeah, thank you all for your support. Thank you for being here this evening. As we know, Kiko has been very, very unhelpful at the end of previous live streams. So let's see if we can get her to come up now. Right then, Keeks. Right then. Are you going to come up? Is Kiko going to come up? Come here. Here she is. Here she is. Is she awake? Are you awake? Are you hungry? Are you hungry for something to eat? Should we get you something to eat? I think we better have. There she is. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Take care.